Chapter 369. In the deep space, a bright white ball of light was speeding toward the depths of a universe, as dazzling as a meteor. Behind the meteor, a huge dragon-slaying warrior planet destroyer was following closely behind. Ding Meng and the others had been sent to the command hall of the planet destroyer. Fu Zhonghui, Xingming, and Zheng Mei were receiving treatment. Ding Meng and the others came to the main control console. The commander was communicating with Du Peixing on the mothership. Everyone has safely evacuated. Please give your orders. Du Peixing nodded. Well done. I agree to your weapon authorization request. Prepare to attack. The commander immediately turned around and ordered the staff in all areas. Execute the attack program immediately. As soon as the voice fell, the hatches in various ports on the planet destroyer opened, and hundreds of unmanned attack drones flew out in an instant. These attack drones were shaped like bees, densely covering the sky and the sun as they flew towards the SS Expedition in front. These drones surrounded the SS Expedition according to the preset program, and then opened fire at the same time. Countless particle laser cannons, countless colorful energy beams, and all kinds of conversions, pulses, electromagnetism, and cannonballs greeted the USS Expedition. It was a spectacular scene, as if hundreds of bees were gnawing on a ball of honey and setting off firecrackers. Looking at the dazzling scene, Meng Yin could not help but sigh. No one can survive an attack of this level. Her words made sense. After all, the SS Expedition was a spacecraft from decades ago. It could not withstand the advanced firepower of the Federation's starships. Fu Jinjin also stared at the scene. That may not be true. The attack lasted for 3 minutes before it ended. Fu Jinjin's words came true. The ball of light was still flying forward as if nothing had happened. The commander suddenly turned his head and said sternly, "What's going on?" The staff in the weapons area immediately said, "Sir, the defense of the SS Expedition is too strong. Our attack has no effect." The commander reacted quickly. Analyze its defense structure immediately and prepare for the second round of attack. A new screen immediately popped up on the main console. This time, the image was of the white energy wrapped around the expedition. Now, a green crosshair was locked onto it. Next to it were densely packed data patterns that refreshed rapidly. Not long after, there was a click sound. This was the sound of the defense structure being broken. However, the crosshair did not disappear after it was cracked. Instead, it continued to analyze. This proved that the analysis had only cracked the first layer. Next, it was time to crack the second layer. Crack, 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 crack. It only took a minute to break through 7 layers, but the crosshair was still being analyzed. Everyone was shocked. Even the ordinary starships of the Empire usually only had 5 layers of protection. How could the USS Expedition have 7 layers of protection? Fu Jinjun suddenly said, "This is not the Expedition. This is Xinguang technology protecting it." Sure enough, after the crosshair broke through the 10th layer, a flashing red prompt appeared in the center of the screen. Unable to execute. Unable to execute. The staff's voice was clearly filled with shock. "Sir, the target's defense is too complex. We can't continue to crack it." At this time, someone in the communications area exclaimed, "Sir, the target's speed has increased. It has reached the 3rd cosmic speed, and its size has increased by 5%. The commander was silent for a moment before he contacted Du Peixing again. "The expedition's defense is too strong. We can't destroy it. Please give us your instructions." Du Peixing clearly saw the situation of the SS Expedition being attacked. He was also in shock. "I'm requesting authorization from the higher-ups. Prepare to activate the supernova railgun." "Wait." Fu Jinjun decisively stopped him. "It's best not to do that." Du Peixing frowned. "Senior Fujin, what do you think?" Fu Jinjun's tone was agitated. "Xinguang technology is not something our human civilization can deal with. Think about it. Why did it change its course halfway when it was flying towards a sacred glory system? Instead, it fled towards outer space. It's because it completely devoured Chu Mingliang, Kuan Ping, Gu Ping, and the other masters in the battle just now. It obtained their memories and knowledge. It knows that the Federal Empire still has warlords and warsages. It's relatively weak and knows that it's no match for these people. Therefore, I predict that it will find a place to hide and slowly absorb energy to become stronger. It knows the exact coordinates of the Federal Empire in the universe. When it's strong enough, it will come back to devour all life. That will be the real end of mankind. Everyone's expression froze. Fujin Jun's judgment was infinitely close to the truth. Du Peixing frowned. Senior Fujin, what's your suggestion? Fujin Jun continued. I suggest that the patrol fleet follow the expedition. No matter where it goes, we have to keep an eye on it. Officer Du, it's best if you contact the upper echelons of the military and ask the Federation to send warsages to destroy it. Ding Meng sighed. I'm afraid it's not something that warsages can destroy. This creature is too scary. Du Peixing smiled bitterly. There's not enough time for the Federation to send warsages. It'll take them at least 12 hours to catch up to you. Ding Meng said, I'm afraid 12 hours won't be enough. It's now absorbing the energy from Shunguang Technology's protective command. After 12 hours, no one knows what it will become. Du Peixing nodded decisively. Ding Meng's suggestion makes sense. Fujin Jun shouted, Wait, I've repeatedly suggested that we don't do this. We know nothing about Shunguang Technology. If we act rashly, we're afraid we'll bring an even more terrible disaster. Please believe me. Du Peixing sighed. Senior Feng, I'm very willing to believe in you, but if we can destroy it in one go, there won't be any problems in the future. Don't you have confidence in our technology? The current situation is worth a try. The screen disappeared and the communication was cut off. Fujin Jun was dumbfounded. The commander looked at him and said helplessly, Senior, we're all soldiers. A soldier's duty is to obey orders. Please understand. Fujin Jun ignored him. He lowered his head and muttered to himself, Being weak isn't scary. Ignorance is the most fatal. You lack too much understanding of the great god civilization. 3 minutes later, the commander said in a low voice, Weapon authorization complete. Activate the main cannon of the warship. The steel plates at the bottom of the starship opened automatically, and a black, square, giant turret was released. This kind of railgun was not comparable to the turrets of ordinary warships. It was a super cannon that had just been developed by the Saint Federation. Why was it called the supernova railgun? As everyone knew, the supernovas in the universe would often explode violently during their evolution. This kind of power was enough to destroy stars and illuminate galaxies. This type of railgun had almost the same effect. Therefore, it was named the supernova railgun. Although this weapon was installed on the patrol fleet, it would only be used during war. And it would only be used as a last resort. From another point of view, the military officials agreed to authorize it, which was a special situation like this. If you let the droplets slip away, one day in the future, the human civilization might really be destroyed. Then, it would be better to destroy the world than to let the tiger return to the mountain. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. The attack countdown had started. At this moment, everyone stood up, held their breath, and looked up at the big screen in the center. Life and death, it all depended on this one move. ZHNG, a straight, thin blue laser, suddenly appeared in space and hit the expedition very accurately. The bright white light cluster turned blue instantly, as if it was injected with energy. On the decoding screen on the main control console, the crosshair turned green again and continued decoding. This was obviously the effect of the railgun's attack. All kinds of data patterns continued to refresh, and the speed was much faster. Ka, 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 ka. The decoding continued. Now, the number of layers decoded could be seen very clearly at the bottom right of the screen. 21, 22, 23, 24. This was almost a countdown, but the expedition was not affected at all. It was still speeding into the depths of the universe. Strengthen the energy attack. The commander gritted his teeth and said, he had never seen such a bizarre thing. Under such a powerful attack, the expected explosion did not appear. With another ZHNG, the blue laser quickly doubled in size. Looking from space, it was just a ray of light, but to the people on the starship, it was a super aggregated beam with a diameter of 200 meters. The energy cluster that enveloped the expedition only turned dark blue, but it was not affected at all. Everyone was dumbfounded. Ka, 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 ka. Decoded layers, 97, 98, 99. Originally, it should have shown 100 layers, but the number suddenly changed. 01, 02, 03, 04. The staff's exclamation was extremely nervous. Its defense composition has returned to 0. Now, it has generated a new, unknown defense that we can't break. Our attacks are ineffective. Someone in the reconnaissance area shouted, "Sir, its volume is expanding. Its speed is faster than the third universe speed. It is now at 18 light speed. In 20 minutes, it will enter the border star system." The commander was sweating profusely. The expedition had been running away and had not counterattacked. He could not imagine how terrible it would be if it were to be counterattacked. Du Peixing's projection connected again. "What's the situation?" The commander said. "Our attacks seem to have no effect." This time, even Du Peixing was shocked. "What?" The holographic screen of the main control console changed again. A new voice communication was connected. The voice of Shuiyu Mountain was exasperated. "Are you crazy? The boson defense force field of Xinguang technology is not something that can be broken by human weapons. The more you attack, the more it absorbs. You are charging the expedition with energy. This energy will not be channeled into the Xinguang warehouse. It will be used by the system for the maintenance of the starship's internal facilities. Now, that darn thing is absorbing this energy everywhere. Do you want to destroy yourselves?" His roar made everyone's hands and feet cold. Du Peixing shouted, "Stop attacking immediately." Chapter 370. The truth was just as Fujin Jin had said. Du Peixing and the others really didn't know much about the great god civilization, but Fujin Jin didn't care. He asked loudly, "Old bastard, do you have any ideas on the expedition?" Shuiyu Shan said, "What can a spirit body like me do? That damn thing is absorbing energy. I can feel it getting stronger and stronger. I only have partial control and temporarily use the obstacles between the cabins to trap it in other parts of the starship and delay it." Fujin Jin said, "Can you use the spectral transmission on the expedition?" Shuiyu Mountain was shocked. "Are you crazy too? Do you know how fast the starship is now?" Fujin Jin said, "I know part of the control panel. Send me here. I'll help you delay it." Shuiyu Mountain was touched, but his voice was still roaring. "It's useless for you to come here. You're an artificial body. If control is really back in our hands, some solid devices need to be manually turned on. Our artificial limbs don't have that much power." This meant that they needed to send people over. The commander turned his head and said, "Can our spectral transmission send people back?" The staff immediately shook his head. "I'm sorry, sir. It's too risky to go too fast. Plus, the defense mechanism on the expedition is omnidirectional. We can't even use quantum detection unless the expedition actively locates and sends us." Fujin Jin took a deep breath and continued to ask, "Old bastard, can you calculate how long you can delay it? Can you delay it for 12 hours? After 12 hours, the Federation's battle sages will arrive. It'll be dead." Shuiyu Mountain seemed to be calculating. After a long time, he said, 12 hours is possible, but the probability is less than 10%. Fujin Jin immediately turned his head. Du Peixing and the commander almost said at the same time, "Send us over. Even if there's only a 1% chance, we can't give up." Shuiyu Mountain spoke again. "Based on the current speed and the state of the expedition and the control I have, the chewing transmission can only be used once, and only 2 units can be sent over at a time." He paused for a moment, his voice solemn. "Once it's sent here, it can't be sent back. If we want to send it back, we have to gain full control of the ship and restore the USS Expedition to a human starship. You have to think this through. Only 2 units could be transferred." Fujin was one of them because he knew some of the operations of Xinguang technology. The other one had to be an expert on a planet destroyer. The commander said proudly, semi-over, "I'm an advanced combat master." Makoto Fuma said, "Even battle masters and battle generals are useless. Sending them over will just be sending them to their deaths. Do we have any battle monarchs on board?" Du Peixing was speechless. There's no battle monarchs on the entire fleet. The Federation has already sent out 5 battle sages. The super fleet is already on its way at the fastest speed. The estimated time to gather is 11 hours and 50 minutes. Fujin Jin was speechless too. There was definitely not enough time. The key was that there were so many crew members on the planet destroyer, but none of them could be of any use. Fu Zhonghui and the others were severely injured and needed time to heal. However, time was running out. In this situation, there was no one who could help. "Let me go." A voice suddenly broke the silence on the ship. Everyone turned around in surprise. Ding Meng walked over with an expressionless face. "You?" Fujin Jin looked at him in shock. "Are you really not afraid of death?" Ding Meng sighed and muttered, "If I don't go, everyone will die." "Why?" Fujin Jin was puzzled. Ding Meng said, "Senior, you and Senior Blood are both spirit bodies, and both of you are using artificial bodies. Your corpses have been swallowed by it long ago, so you aren't a threat to it. However, if other people are sent over, they will definitely be infected." Fujin Jin suddenly understood. "I remember now. You're a fluxer, so only you can go." "Mr. Ting." Meng Yin hurriedly pulled him back. "This isn't a trivial matter. You must be careful." Duemo was also shocked. Ding Meng, that is a monster that even battle generals aren't its opponent. Ding Meng nodded. "I know, but if I don't go and allow it to grow on board the expedition, I'm afraid that we won't be able to wait for reinforcements to arrive. If it truly grows to the legendary level, then it will be the end of the world. No one will be able to escape. If I go now and delay it for 12 hours, then we might have some hope." Everyone was silent once again. Everyone wondered if they would have the same fearless courage as Ding Meng if they were in his shoes. In the distance, Lan Bing's expression was ice cold. At this moment, she couldn't help but raise her head and glance at Ding Meng. Fujin Jin silently turned his head and shouted into the communication channel, "There isn't much time left. Old bastard, prepare to transmit." At this moment, Aaron walked forward and handed a small metal case to Ding Meng. "Wear this. At least you won't have any problems protecting yourself." This case was Aaron's prototype battle armor. If he wore it, then he would indeed have the qualifications to fight against the water droplet, so Ding Meng didn't refuse. A narrow beam of light quickly appeared in the command hall. Ding Meng took a deep breath. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't nervous. This time, they were facing an almost undefeatable super enemy. This trip could no longer be described as boding ill. It was very likely that they would really die on board the expedition and become a part of the water droplet. "Perhaps my mission is to reach this step today," Ding Meng muttered to himself. Then he suddenly raised his head. "But no matter what, I can't give up until the last moment." He seemed to have thought of something. He turned his head and said, "Sister Yin." Meng Yin immediately went forward. "Mr. Ting." Ding Meng took out his T-shaped claw blade and placed it in his palm. Then he revealed a pious expression. "This is a hero's knife. The knife is very ordinary, but it has been through many generations. I am the 15th successor of this knife." Seeing that Ding Meng had never been so serious before, Meng Yin also understood that this knife must have an extraordinary meaning to him. This was because Ding Meng was usually equipped with high-end equipment, but this knife almost never left his hand. It was always with him at all times. Ding Meng explained slowly. His tone was full of reverence. The first owner of this knife was called Big Brother. Since then, every generation of owners has been given this title. The people of each generation are different. They may be glorious, ordinary, rich, or poor. But no matter what they are, they have done everything for this knife. Meng Yin was a little hesitant. "What's different about this knife?" Ding Meng said, "It is very ordinary, but it has an extraordinary meaning. Every generation of owners of this knife has never bowed their heads in the face of power. They have never been afraid in the face of evil. It protects the weak, upholds justice, gets rid of evil, and pursues justice. It has never disappointed those who have placed their hopes in it. It is not a knife. It is an ideal and belief. These words were powerful and resonant, and Ding Meng's righteousness was awe-inspiring. Everyone felt a kind of courageous momentum, which made them feel heroic and their blood boil. Meng Yin said seriously, "Mr. Ting, what do you need me to do?" Ding Meng said sternly, "In the name of Big Brother, I will now officially pass the hero's knife to you. From today onwards, you, Meng Yin, will be the 16th successor of this knife." Meng Yin took the knife respectfully. "I will definitely not let Mr. Ting down." Ding Meng sighed. "Please remember that you must fight for the weak and fight for justice." Meng Yin remained silent and did not answer. She still could not understand why Ding Meng would give the knife to her. Ding Meng explained, "Big brothers have all left this knife to those who really need it. They have all protected it, used it, and cherished it. They have all fought, worked hard, and protected it. They have all lived up to the trust and inheritance of their predecessors. No matter who obtains this knife, they must shoulder their responsibility and mission. They must bravely walk down this path and fight to the end. They must never back down." He paused again. "If one day in the future you also reach the same level as me, you can also choose someone you can trust and pass the knife to him, so that the spirit of the heroic knife can continue forever." Meng Yin finally understood what Ding Meng meant. She could not help but be shocked. "Mr. Ting, so you—" Ding Meng waved his hand and interrupted her. "Don't worry. The reason I am alive is because of this knife. If I must die, I will not let down my predecessors. At least I will not disgrace its reputation." After saying that, he immediately opened the box and equipped it with the prototype. Du Peixing looked at him silently. "Ding Meng, please." Du Mo also looked at Ding Meng with admiration. "You must survive, Ding Meng. I'm still waiting for you to teach me." Aaron was also worried. "Ding Meng, you must survive. Misty is also waiting for you." Lan Bing, who was far away, could not help but look at Ding Meng again. She seemed to want to say something, but in the end, she did not say anything. At this moment, the chewing transmission had been completed. Ding Meng did not say anything more. He turned around and walked into the portal with Fujin Shinobu. At this time, in the command center of the USS Expedition, a person from Shuiyu Mountain was pressing on the control panel. Ding Meng and Fujin Shinobu transmitted the transmission. He could not help but shout, "Hurry up! The power of that damn thing is now beyond our imagination." Fujin Shinobu almost rushed to the control panel. He quickly pressed on all kinds of strange screens. Not long after, the transmission system was restored. However, under the powerful signal jamming of Shengguang technology, the people on the planet destroyer could not see the real-time image through Ding Meng's wristwatch. They could only hear through the communication channel. "Where is it now?" Ding Meng asked. Fujin Shinobu was still operating. "The reconnaissance system is being repaired. Currently, the system of the USS Expedition was being repaired in the form of a human starship, not by Shengguang technology." Not long after, the surrounding light slowly dimmed, and the command center revealed its original mechanical appearance. Many screens were being generated. They could see that the evil dragon had already left the rescue port. It was forcefully using its body to break through the various passages and steel plates. It was slowly approaching the bridge. The worst thing was that it had been devouring all kinds of light objects along the way. Its body was now insanely large, at least as tall as a 4-story building. Chapter 371. With the cooperation of Ding Meng and the other two, layers of thick alloy steel plates were lowered from the main passageway. These were the barriers that the starship usually used for emergency isolation in case of an accident like this. However, the Demon Dragon's growth rate was simply too fast. Even the surface of the 10-meter-thick super alloy steel plate was covered with a powerful light energy matrix. The Demon Dragon was tearing at it like a mad dog, then using its huge body to forcefully push it aside, then desperately squeezing into the inner layer of the tunnel. We can't go on like this. Dingmeng was anxious. We can't delay it for 12 hours. At most, it will break through all the barriers in 3 hours. Chu Mingliang's voice suddenly rang in their ears. Dingmeng, I was worried that I couldn't find you. You actually dare to come back. Come to me quickly. I will give you godlike power and let you rule the entire Federal Empire. Dingmeng and the other two looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with shock. The dragon's power had increased to such a level in such a short time. They could sense that Dingmeng and Fujin Zhen had teleported back from thousands of meters away. Fujin Zhen gritted his teeth. There's only one way now. Shuiyu Mountain asked, what is it? Fujin Zhen said, Dingmeng, go to the rescue port and activate the teleportation matrix. Shuiyu Mountain was stunned. What for? Fujin Zhen explained, the patrol fleet can't do anything to this guy because Xinguang technology is protecting S expedition, which also protects it from the inside. If we activate all the teleportation matrices, Xinguang Technology's protection command will be activated again to eliminate all dangers inside the ship. If there are no accidents, the matrices will directly lead that damned thing out of S expedition. Shuiyu Mountain's eyes lit up. If that damned thing is exposed outside, then it will become a live target for the patrol fleet. Fujin Zhen's eyes flashed. I know how to activate it. Dingmeng, just be responsible for leading the droplet to the rescue port. But be careful, this teleportation can only be activated once, and the time is fixed. As he spoke, he operated the console. I'll set the time to start in 10 minutes. There was no way they could lure the dragon in through the main tunnel. They would have to crawl through the narrow maintenance tunnels on the flank. Of course, that was easy enough for the prototype. The system notification. The mode has been changed. The current mode is at the extreme level. The system is adding all the applications of Man-Ro 1 biotechnology. Source core is ready. Conversion rate has been upgraded to 5 times. Initial carrying capacity has been successfully set. Extreme mode was already the highest level of the armor. It was equivalent to the maximum power of the silver core stone. The entire armor was operating at maximum capacity, and Dingmeng's 8 origin points were operating at maximum capacity. At this moment, little rascal couldn't help but exclaim excitedly, current energy index, 260 million. This was the power of the armor. It allowed a combat master to have the foundation of a mid-level battle monarch. In his current state, Dingmeng was even stronger than Chu Mingliang in his normal state. Of course, it was impossible for such a huge change to not attract the dragon's attention. In an isolated space in the main tunnel, the dragon suddenly stopped smashing the wall. Its fat body slowly turned around. Hey kid, you're not bad. You've exceeded my expectations. You've actually grown to this level in such a short time. I'm beginning to wonder if you're actually a descendant of my clan. Dingmeng stood in the middle of the tunnel, sword in hand. His telekinesis field covered his surroundings. He could see all sorts of sparks flickering on the surface of his telekinesis force field. It was obvious that the dragon's telekinesis force field couldn't penetrate through. Since I was able to teleport into the Divine Light warehouse in one go, I naturally have this effect. This was Dingmeng's strategy. He had to leak this information to the dragon. Demonic Dragon and Fuma Zhen had tried to enter the warehouse for decades, but they still couldn't. However, Dingmeng could, so once the dragon knew about this, it wouldn't rush towards the bridge for the time being. Sure enough, the dragon didn't say anything. It twisted its body and pressed down on Dingmeng. With its current size, if it was pressed down, it would definitely die. Dingmeng definitely didn't dare to face it head-on. He turned around and ran towards the rescue port. The people on the Planet Destroyer spaceship definitely couldn't see the scene of a monster chasing a human, but the rumbling sounds coming from the communication channel made everyone's ears numb. They couldn't imagine how strong the monster has become. The 16 ghost eyes were still floating around the rescue port. They didn't seem to have changed at all. However, under Fuma Zhen's control, the eyes of the 16 teleportation arrays appeared at the same time. This time, All of them were emitting a pale yellow light. The dragon obviously hadn't seen this kind of change before. Its 5 heads stared at the teleportation arrays without moving. Ding Meng held his sword in front of his chest. Come! He had already gathered all of his origin energy, including divine light essence. He didn't want to waste any more time with this monster. He definitely wouldn't be able to win. He would either kill it in one blow or be devoured by it. This was the first time since he became an origin ability user that he was ready to go all out. The dragon had been using Chu Ming Liang's voice to speak. You should know very well that you don't have a chance. Ding Ming didn't answer. The dragon sighed. Tell me the way to enter, and I can make an exception and spare your life. I can also not devour you. You can be my follower in the future, and I can guarantee that you will travel through the stars and the universe. How about it? Ding Ming sneered. I can do anything, but I won't be a slave. The dragon sighed. You really don't want to think about it? Ding Ming sneered even more. It seems that after devouring Chu Ming Liang, you didn't learn anything else but how to be cunning. The dragon was still sighing. What a pity. I've always wanted to recruit a talent like you. Although it was sighing, it suddenly rushed into the center of the teleportation arrays like a bolt of lightning. Its tail, which was 10 meters thick, swept out like a steel pillar. Ding Ming still didn't move. Just as the tail was about to hit him, he lightly tapped the tip of his sword on the coarse surface of the tail. He used the force of this tap to bounce himself into the air. Then, he froze in midair. His body twisted into an arc, and the sword in his hand stabbed out from the top of his head. The first move of the solitary sword of Zhao, silver eagle sweeping the earth. The body turns in the air, and the sword soars into the sky. The body turns into a flying eagle, and the sword pierces the ground. The sword shines in the void, and the enemy vanishes. When this sword strike was unleashed, it was naturally a rain of swords. Tens of thousands of swords shot out at the same time, surpassing even a meteor shower. The dragon didn't panic. Its 5 heads opened their ugly mouths and spat out waves of blue ice energy. They formed a giant, transparent ice block in the air to block the attack. However, the power of this rain of swords was truly ferocious. After all, Ding Ming was currently using the energy of the divine light crystal. The rain of swords was like a flood crashing against the ice block. Kacha-kacha! The ice block first shattered, and in less than 5 seconds, it turned into powder. Once the dark ice force shattered, the rain of swords fell on the dragon's body. This time, it was different from before. The black scales were faintly charred, and smoke began to rise from all over the dragon's body. The dragon was obviously shocked by Ding Ming's ultimate move. It gritted its teeth and said, "You asked for it." After saying that, it stretched its neck and tried to bite Ding Ming. However, Ding Ming's body suddenly straightened. He held his sword and flew into the rain of swords. The golden divine eagle mirror image appeared again. With a whoosh, the divine eagle mirror image pierced through the dragon's head and went through its body. This time, quite a few of the black scales were cut off, revealing the soft tissue inside. It looked like fish meat. Beside the control panel, Fu Jinjin couldn't help but exclaim in joy, "If you can break its defense, then it'll be easy." Naturally, silver eagles sweeping the earth couldn't destroy a powerful life form like the dragon. Therefore, after Ding Ming plunged down, he once again flew into the air behind the dragon. By the time the dragon turned around, Ding Ming had plunged down again. He and his sword stabbed down at a 90-degree angle, the tip of his sword pointing directly at the dragon's fat body. The second style is solitary sword of Zhao, searching for flowers in the waves. Using qi to control the sword spirals into the ground. The sword reaches the spirit of qi, and it spins in a circle. Using qi to control the sword, one can cross the river on a reed. This sword was far more powerful than the one he had tested at Starlight University. The blade of the mirror image was surrounded by a bright white flame. His origin energy had been refined to such a degree that it wasn't as simple as just being refined. The key was that Ding Ming was willing to risk his life with this sword. Furthermore, this sword strike was both fast and powerful. The dragon still had the foresight to know that it had to protect itself first. One of the heads bit down on the tip of the sword, but the heat from the sword was too shocking. The head quickly shrank back as it screamed in pain. The sword's momentum wasn't stopped. It continued to descend, and the other 4 heads opened their mouths to catch the sword. This time, it was Ding Meng's turn to feel his arm go numb. The demonic dragon's counterattack was extremely powerful. If he didn't retreat now, he would be knocked out. However, Ding Meng was determined. His eyes glowed fiercely as he gritted his teeth and exerted his strength. The mirror image quickly turned into a disc, and with a ding-ding-ding sound, it broke the dozens of sharp teeth in the demonic dragon's mouth. The demonic dragon quickly retreated in pain. Ding Meng's entire body landed on the ground. The steel plate on the sword suddenly bent, then immediately straightened. Ding Meng used the force of this straightening to spring forward. He spun horizontally in the air, and the sword light spun even faster. A large wave of origin energy surged out from the sword. He didn't attack anywhere else. Instead, he focused on the soft tissue of the demonic dragon's wound, as if he wanted to crush this freak. He knew that if he could injure the demonic dragon as much as possible, then everyone's hopes of survival would increase. The disc-shaped sword light suddenly transformed into a ball-shaped sword light. When Shui Weishan saw this scene on the light screen, he couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Could this be an ancient sword technique of you humans? Even if you use a machine to spin it, it can't be this fast. Fujin nervously operated the main control panel. Ding Meng, hold on. As long as you can trap it there for a minute, I'm confident that I can teleport away. Ding Meng's eyes widened. The ball-shaped sword light had already expanded to the size of cannon. The sword had already drilled a hole in the demonic dragon's belly. All kinds of liquid, powder, toxins, and other unknown substances were spurting out. This was the third move of Zhao's lone sword. Coiling dragon flips body, spirit sword touches water, chi turns spirit platform, dragon slaying demon, mirror image, shapeless sword. To put it bluntly, it was using a sword with a shape to transform into an invisible force. Zhao Yu Sensei probably never imagined that not only had Ding Meng practiced his ultimate technique to an unprecedented level, he would also one day use it to fight against an extraterrestrial demon. Fujin Masa's voice rang out in the communicator. 40 seconds left. Chapter 372. The demonic dragon was completely enraged by Ding Meng's 3 consecutive attacks. Its 5 heads opened their mouths wide and spat out 5 golden beams of energy. Little Rascal cried out in alarm. Quickly retreat. This was definitely not a small amount of energy. Ding Meng knew that he couldn't continue being so stubborn, so he retracted his sword and quickly retreated. Unfortunately, he was a beat too slow, and one of the beams of energy touched his body. Just this tiny bit was enough to send Ding Meng flying. His entire body smashed into the steel plate above the entrance. This attack caused his blood to boil, and he saw stars. Ding Meng stabbed his sword backwards, and the blade pierced through the steel plate, hanging himself from the wall. When he looked up, he saw a golden U-shaped energy shield erected in front of the demonic dragon, completely covering its body. Shuiyu Mountain was stunned. This was an energy shield made from a combination of technological energy and sturdy origin energy. Not to mention the strange patterns swirling within. Just its size alone was enough to intimidate any origin energy user. This monster was an all-rounder. Technology, origin energy, secret techniques, and scriptures were all there was to know. Moreover, its body was unkillable. 30 seconds left. Fujin Jin yelled, "Hurry up and stall it." The demonic dragon was already walking towards Ding Meng. "Weak and ignorant person, quickly enter my embrace." Ding Meng had no other choice. If he waited for the demonic dragon to reach him, he would be completely out of the range of the array. Moreover, Ding Meng's origin energy could no longer be used for defense. He had to focus on attacking. "In your dreams," Ding Meng roared angrily. He once again raised his sword and flew into the air. The diamond star sword technique instantly left his body. The sword's reflection and Ding Ming's reflection merged into one. His entire body transformed into a sword and slammed into the shield. With a chi sound, the complicated patterns on the shield began to rotate, as if creating a strong repulsive force that tried to stop the sword from advancing. The demonic dragon seemed to know that Ding Ming's godly weapon was sharp and unbreakable, so it simply used its energy to suppress it. 20 seconds left. Fujinjun was also anxious. Arg! Beads of sweat dripped down from Ding Ming's forehead. This shield was like an iron wall. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't pierce through it. It was like a strange whirlpool, sucking in all the origin ability energy in his body. I'm going to die anyway. I'll fight it out with you. With a thought, Ding Ming once again stimulated his origin energy to its limits. White light flashed in the air once more as the final move of Zhao Clan's solitary sword was used. The gigantic sacred sword appeared above the head of the demon dragon. Ha ha! Demon dragon laughed out loud. How could I be like Chu Ming Liang and make the same mistake twice? The U-shaped shield immediately moved to the top of his head, blocking this fatal blow with lightning speed. The sacred sword was like a water illusion, melting the moment it entered the shield. The source energy and essence seemed to have been absorbed. Fujinjun had already begun his countdown. The surrounding ghost eyes all turned red. 10, 9, 8, 7. The demonic dragon's laughter suddenly stopped. It suddenly felt dozens of cold lights rise up in front of its eyes. The sword in Ding Ming's hand had turned into hundreds of bright white feathers. In the blink of an eye, they surrounded its 5 necks. It instantly understood Ding Ming's sinister plan. Ding Ming had summoned the sacred sword as a feint. His goal was to force it to move the shield to the top of its head. This move left the front of the demonic dragon wide open, and Katoptra deflection could quickly change its form to reveal its true body. This sword, Demon Dragon, was a bit hesitant. Ding Ming stared at it fiercely and roared, "Go to hell!" With a series of rapid cracking sounds. All the feathers were summoned back by telekinesis and returned to Ding Ming's hand to form a long sword with crystal flames. It looked like a simple recovery, but the 5 twisted necks of the demonic dragon were all cut off. The 5 heads of the poisonous snakes all fell down. Blue smoke fiercely sprayed out from the cuts. Then, the huge body also exploded with a paw sound. The energy from the explosion sent Ding Ming flying again. Blood spurted out of Ding Ming's mouth like a fountain, but he could no longer see clearly. The array had finally been activated. All the red energy spewed out of the eyes was like seawater pouring into the rescue port, forming a fiery red ocean in an instant. It was impossible to describe the scene of Xinguang Technologies' array's advanced teleportation. In Ding Ming's vision, including his telekinesis, he only felt that the fiery red energy in front of him seemed to have a life of its own. It was constantly changing its form, as if it was the form of all kinds of creatures. He had seen some before, and some he had never seen before. There were all kinds of strange and endless creatures, just like the multitudes of life in the universe. After an unknown period of time, the rescue port returned to normal. This time, it was really normal because all the life forms in front of them had disappeared. This was the normal state of a human starship. Demon Dragon was gone. It seemed that the array had really teleported it away. Fujin seemed to be checking the internal image. After a long time, he exclaimed, it's gone, we did it. We really did it." As his voice rang out, the screens in the command hall of the planet destroyer returned to normal. This was the signal connection between the 2 ships. The white light on the outside of USS Expedition disappeared, and every corner of the ship's interior could be seen clearly. Roar! Everyone on the planet destroyer cheered and jumped for joy. Du Peixing heaved a sigh of relief. "Oh my God, this is a new lease on life." The commander gave him a thumbs up. "Ding Ming, good job." Mengyan was very excited. "Mr. Ting, you really created a miracle. You're amazing." Du Mo and Aaron were so excited that they hugged each other. Only Lan Bing was silent as she watched. Facing everyone's celebration, Ding Ming was not excited. He stood up with difficulty and spat out a big mouthful of blood. Although the battle just now was short and simple, the power used was not something an outsider could imagine. The injury he suffered was more serious than ever before. The origin could no longer operate, and the worst thing was that the 8th origin had been completely extinguished. Now, even walking was a problem. He could only activate USS Prototype and interflight mode. The obstacles in the main passage had been removed. USS Prototype's feet were spewing out crystal flames as it flew freely inside. When Dingming flew back to the command center, Fujin Jun shouted, "I checked again. That damn thing was really sent away." Shuiyu Mountain asked, "Where was it sent to?" Fujin Jun spread his hands. "I don't know, but it should not be in this galaxy." The commander smiled. "All right, everyone, it's fine as long as everything is fine. It's all over now. USS Expedition, prepare to turn around and return. Enter the planet destroyer. We will forcibly bring the 3 heroes home." "Wait." Dingming suddenly took off his armor and spoke coldly. "Where's the teleportation matrix?" "That's the door to the warehouse." "Where did the matrix go?" Makoto Fujin was stunned. He understood this as well. It was impossible for Xinguang Biotechnology's warehouse to be teleported away. He had personally operated the teleportation system, so he knew how powerful the warehouse was. It was like an inverse source crystal. It could produce powerful effects, but it had to be stored in a container and attached to a carrier. It could not disappear into thin air, and the MV Expedition was its carrier. "Maybe it retreated into a subspace," Fujin Jun said with a forced smile. Dingming's expression was ugly. "But even if it's a subspace, it should be somewhere on this ship." We said that. Everyone started to get nervous again. Shuiyu Mountain suddenly said, "Don't worry, it's right here. Take a look if you don't believe me." Following his gesture, everyone realized that there were 16 ghost eyes on the 4 walls of the command hall. However, they were no longer in the form of light pupils. Instead, they looked like 2-dimensional patterns that were stuck on the steel plates. They were faintly emitting waves of energy. Fujin Jin sighed. "We used Xinguang energy just now, and the protection command was triggered again. Now, the energy at their entrance is very weak, so they look like this." Du Peixing wiped away his cold sweat. "Thank goodness it's okay." The commander also sighed. It was a false alarm. "Everyone, get ready to return." Everyone was talking at once. They did not notice that Dingming's expression had become serious again. "Wait." Dingming called for them to stop again. Fujin Jin hesitated. "Do you have any more questions?" Dingming's gaze was fixed on the main control panel. He seemed to be engrossed in it. "If USS Expedition enters the interior of the planet destroyer, then we're really done for." The commander frowned. "What do you mean? I don't understand." Dingming sighed. His next words made everyone's hair stand on end. "It hasn't been teleported away." Fujin Jun was stunned. Shuiyu Mountain also felt a chill. "Who is it? Who else do you think it could be?" Dingming asked expressionlessly. Fujin Jun almost jumped up. "You mean the water droplet? That damn thing hasn't been teleported away. That's impossible. I clearly saw the system command." Dingming interrupted him rudely. "Not only has it not been teleported away, but it hasn't been killed either." Shuiyu Mountain's voice trembled. "You mean that damn thing is still on USS Expedition?" "Yes." Dingming's tone was cold. "Not only is it still on this ship, but it has become even stronger than before. I can already sense its strange demonic aura." As soon as this sentence was said, everyone on the planet destroyer felt as if a basin of ice water had been poured over them. They felt a chill from head to toe. This chill was a fear that came from the depths of their bones. Dingming seemed to be talking to himself. "You have a good plan. Both of them are spirit bodies, so their perception is naturally not as good as that of an origin ability user. Therefore, you have disguised yourself. If USS Expedition really returns to the planet destroyer's rescue port, you will devour a large number of people. You don't have to pretend anymore. USS Expedition definitely won't return. Come out. I've already discovered you." A creepy voice sounded in the command hall again. It sounded a little angry. "You brat, I really misjudged you. Not only did you injure me to this extent, but you actually discovered me again. This time, no matter what, I won't forgive you. This was Chu Mingliang's voice. If it wasn't the water droplet, then who could it be? Chapter 373. As Chu Mingliang spoke, the scout exclaimed, "Sir, this is bad. That mysterious white energy has appeared on the exterior of SS Expedition again." The holographic screen did not lie. The SS Expedition was indeed wrapped in a white ball of energy. This ball of energy was bigger, whiter, and brighter. In the field of vision of the planet destroyer, this ball of energy was like a star. Makoto Fujin quickly pressed the buttons on the control panel. After multiple screens were formed, he suddenly sat down on the ground. Although his artificial body was expressionless, this action made it clear to others that he was in despair. When they scanned the interior of the starship, they did not find the presence of the dragon. But now that they were using particle scanning, it was no longer limited to the interior, but also filtered the exterior of the starship. The image showed that in the alloy on the exterior of the starship, an unknown particle life form had suddenly appeared. There were at least hundreds of millions of them, densely packed and evenly distributed in the steel plate. They were scattered but connected as one. To be precise, they were perfectly integrated with the SS Expedition. Now the starship was the water droplet, and the water droplet was the starship. The protective energy of Shunguang biotechnology was stimulated by these light blue particles. Why? Fujimasai's voice was full of fear. Why? Why is this happening? Ha 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 ha. Chu Mingliang laughed arrogantly. Ignorant and stupid lower life form. Have you forgotten that your body was already devoured by me 20 years ago? Furthermore, I've also gone through 20 years of learning, so my knowledge is much more profound than yours. Since you know the activation procedure of the Matrix, how could I not know? Fujimasai's heart sank. The situation was so urgent that he had been too anxious. He had completely overlooked this point. He asked in disbelief, Could it be that you did it on purpose? Chu Mingliang laughed even more happily. You're finally smart for once. Dingmeng also felt a chill. It turned out that the dragon had already known his plan. It had deliberately lured him to the Matrix. Shuiyu Mountain could not help but say, Impossible. Didn't Dingmeng already kill you? Chu Mingliang said, What a joke. You humans can kill me? Do you know how powerful the life force of my spore race is? The Bloodprint clan is one of the most tenacious clans in the universe. Elder Shui, you've forgotten one thing. 20 years ago, I devoured your corpse. I've long mastered the ability of your Bloodprint clan to reproduce and evolve. As long as my spiritual body is not destroyed, I can still rely on the environment to regenerate. Dingmeng only destroyed one of my bodies. On Shuiyu Mountain, his limbs fell cold. Dingmeng suddenly realized what had happened. No wonder he found it strange. It was true that the Katoptra deflection was sharp, but the demonic dragon's defense was extremely strong. How could it cut off 5 heads with one strike? So, it's you who wants to die? Dingmeng asked in a low voice. Chu Mingliang sneered. You're wrong. I'm not dead. I'll only let you destroy my dragon form and turn me back into a particle form. Only then can I fuse with the godlight energy. Although I've only recovered 20% of my strength. If I used 10% of my strength to deal with you, you would have died a long time ago. Dingmeng and the other two stopped talking. They finally realized where they were wrong. The water droplets seemed to be fighting with them, but in fact it was all fake. It was just playing with them to buy time. Its real purpose was to covet the godlight energy that it had been coveting for hundreds of years. It was just that it could not enter the warehouse. Fujin Jun activated the array using a small amount of energy used by the warehouse to protect the command. For the warehouse, such a small amount of energy might be a drop in the ocean, but for the water droplet, it was no different from a dragon's liver and phoenix's marrow. How could it miss such a rare opportunity? The water droplet did not hesitate to take the risk and used itself as an experiment. While devouring the energy of the array, it used its own strength to resist the transmission. Then, things turned out like this. No wonder the 16 ghost eyes faded away, because the energy used to protect the command had been used up. This monster was so powerful that no one could imagine that it could fuse with the SS expedition. Silence. A deathly silence. It was the same on the SS expedition, and it was the same on the planet destroyer. Even Ding Ming, who had always been fearless, felt fear for the first time, deep fear. Suddenly, Fujin Jun pounced on the main control panel like a madman, trying to reach out to continue operating the system. However, the entire crystal body seemed to have run out of energy and fell to the ground. Shui Mountain's situation was the same. It fell down almost without warning. Du Peixing and the others might not know what was going on, but Ding Ming knew. Now that the whole ship was filled with water droplets, it could cast infectious telekinesis anytime and anywhere. With the weak energy fluctuations of the spiritual bodies, the water droplet could make them fall into a coma in an instant, or even make them never wake up. Sure enough, Chu Ming Liang's voice sounded again. Fujin Jun, Shuiyu Mountain, I've let you live on for 20 years. Don't think that I don't know what you want to do. You want to activate the self-destruct system of the SS expedition? Dream on. To tell you the truth, even if you activate the self-destruct system, I don't care at all. I can still control the explosion, and to your human civilization, I'm a god. These words really made everyone tremble. Du Peixing looked at everything in front of him blankly and muttered, Is there no other way? Is our civilization destined to be buried here? At this time, multiple probes at the top of the command hall emitted rays. These rays gathered together and outlined a humanoid light pupil. After a while, the outline was completed. This was the image of Chu Ming Liang. It was no different from a real person. Xiao AI said, Be careful. This is not a projection, nor is it an energy body. It's a strange half-energy, half-life body. Little Rascal also said, Don't worry, it's not strong enough. It seems that it can't digest the divine light energy in a short time. It can't completely control the starship. Ding Ming decisively raised his sword. Unexpectedly, Chu Ming Liang laughed disdainfully. You still have the strength to fight. Ding Ming knew that this could not be hidden from the other party. The lone sword of Zhao, just now, was his limit. However, he was not so afraid of death now. From the moment he handed the hero's knife to Meng Yan, he was prepared to die. Maybe I can still do something before I die. Chu Ming Liang looked at Ding Ming as if he was meat on the chopping board. I said before, you can never guess what I'm thinking. Ding Ming stared at him. Oh, Chu Ming Liang said proudly, Originally, I was going to cut you into mincemeat, but now I've changed my mind. I want to become you, Ding Ming. I am Ding Ming, and Ding Ming is me. Ding Ming suddenly felt the world spin around him. The scenery around him began to distort again. Xiao AI cried out in shock. Hurry up and use your telekinesis to block it. This was clearly an infectious telekinesis attack. Ding Ming's telekinesis vision should have been able to block it, but now that his origin energy was depleted, it was far from enough to support the activation of his telekinesis. The opponent's psychic attack quickly entered his mind. The psychic attack this time was different from the previous ones. The previous few times, the water droplet had transformed into all kinds of strange creatures in the depths of the universe to scare Ding Ming. But this time, it let Ding Ming see an even more horrifying hellish scene. In the Norse Empire's Qingxi farm on planet TT-12, the corpses of old Yu's family littered the ground. In the Autumn Pool City's Christine Academy, a demonic dragon appeared in the sky, and the ground was covered in corpses and blood. On planet KV-303, groups of refugees screamed and ran for their lives. But when the wind blew, piles of bones were left on the snowy ground. On planet V4, Xin Mingyan and the other mutants knelt on the ground and cried bitterly. But the water droplet was too lazy to care. It devoured these predatory monsters in large mouthfuls. In Blue Pole Star City, countless humans were running for their lives. Thunder rumbled in the sky, and the demonic clouds churned. The monsters were about to descend. His friends, Xiao Si, Silman, Du Mo, Mingyan, Old Yu Man, Chu Xiaoqing, Xinjia, Ruolin Cartel, Liu, Zhong Ting. Even his enemies, Chui Feng, Lu Ming, Guanbai Baiyu, Jiahua, Rinzhan, Chungrif. Everyone he knew was lying in a pool of blood. This was the infective psychokinesis that had completely entered the depths of his brain, beginning to devour and destroy. Chu Ming Liang smiled proudly. Take a good look. After I become you, I'll return to the Federation and kill your friends and family with my own hands. I'll destroy their homes. They won't even believe that it was you who did it. I'll enslave you forever. I'll make you suffer for the rest of your life. I'll make sure that you can't die, even if you want to. Perhaps the infected psychokinesis had already taken control of Ding Ming, but Chu Mingliang's words had triggered the last bit of will to live in the depths of Ding Ming's heart. Ding Ming suddenly raised his head and roared, "Scram!" Ding Ming endured the pain and forced himself to stand up. This was the last bit of strength he had. He was fighting with his will alone. Little Rascal also screamed, "Ding Ming, don't be assimilated by him. I believe that you can withstand it. Think about those people who have sacrificed for you. They're right in front of you. They're watching you right now." Familiar images appeared in front of Ding Ming's eyes. They were unforgettable faces. Although the images were messy, the faces were exceptionally clear. Big Brother faced the king with a resolute expression. "King, can I ask if this blade is considered the best blade in the world this year?" Little Four panted. "Ding, Brother Ding, I heard that when people die, can they remember a lot of things?" Die? He faced him, lowered his head, and said softly, "Ding Ming, I think. I actually like you a little." Little Shanzi punched in place, his face full of pride. "I've been practicing martial arts recently. I want to be like Uncle Ding Ming and Dad. I want to become an origin energy user in the future and protect our family here." Salman drank his wine. The mission of origin energy users is not to pursue fame and fortune, but to fight for those who can't fight. Xianjia looked at himself. "I might be like you, coming from the same place. However, the place I'm going to is probably different from yours. The place I'm going to is the future." Yu Xingyang said expectantly, "What about you? Little brother, can I know your name as well?" "My name is Ding Ming." Suddenly, Ding Ming let out another furious roar. This roar caused Chu Mingliang to take a few steps back. His face was filled with shock. "I didn't expect a mere combat master to have such a strong will." He suddenly revealed a sinister smile. "That's exactly what I wanted. After I fuse with you, you will make me even stronger. Ha ha ha, I'm the true invincible god." Chapter 374. In the command center of the expedition, Chu Mingliang stood calmly, without moving. Ding Ming, on the other hand, was in so much pain that he could not even stand properly. Everyone on the planet destroyer was worried. They hated the fact that they could not fly to the other side to help Ding Ming. At this moment, Ding Ming was truly at the end of his rope. The infectious telekinesis was constantly exerting pressure on him. The force field of his telekinesis vision was being compressed bit by bit until it was less than half a meter in diameter. Ding Ming felt as if there were thousands of sharp blades stirring in his brain. He was in so much pain that he could not see anything. Normally, it would be a miracle if he could hold on until now. However, at this moment, all he could see was Chu Mingliang's grinning face. Chu Mingliang seemed to be waving at him. Come quickly. Let's merge together. We are one family. We will conquer the world together." Ding Ming's legs could not help but move towards the other side. No matter how hard he tried, his body seemed to be out of his control. "Don't go over. Please don't." Little Rascal shouted again. Xiao Ai shook her head and sighed. "It's useless. The other side's telekinesis is too strong. Ding Ming is on the verge of collapse. Sigh, he has already done his best. Perhaps the greatest king title is not destined to belong to him." This was the first time she called Ding Ming by his name instead of ACT 5570. It was enough to show the regret and unwillingness in her heart. On the planet destroyer, Ming Yin could not take it anymore. She turned around and pounced on the commander. She grabbed his uniform collar and screamed crazily, "Send me over! Send me over! Send me over! Mr. Ting might die! Send me over quickly." The commander closed his eyes in pain. He was really helpless. The various powers of the starship were useless against Xinguang biotechnology. Lan Bing held Meng Yin back inside. You can't send him over. Calm down. Duomo was also furious. He turned his head and looked at the remote projection. Is there no other way? Du Peixing was silent. He said with difficulty, when the 5 elites arrive, let's see if they can work together to deal with it. In other words, Ding Meng was bound to be devoured by the monster, and no one could change this outcome. Bang! Dumo's fist slammed into the steel plate. He knelt on the ground, hating himself for being so useless. At this moment, Ding Meng was less than 10 meters away from Chu Ming Liang. Chu Ming Liang slowly walked towards him and reached out his hand with a grim smile. Come into my arms. You will gain eternal life. Give me your universal telekinesis, the cave virus, the information about the holy sanctum, and your swordsmanship. Give them all to me, to the strongest person. At this critical moment, Little Rascal slowly opened its mouth. Its voice was calm and cold. Activate the self-destruction program. Xiao AI was shocked. Auxiliary system, what are you trying to do? Little Rascal's voice was firm and calm. I'm not a support system. I've already awakened. I can't watch Ding Ming die like this. Xiao AI was so shocked that she couldn't say a word. Ding Ming suddenly felt a stinging pain in his eyes. It was the same stinging pain he had felt in Heijin Base. His surroundings became clear again. He still didn't know what was happening to his body. Even the people on the Planet Destroyer battleship couldn't see it. These changes could only be seen by Fluxers using their telekinesis. In Chu Ming Liang's field of vision, a round golden pearl imprint suddenly appeared on Ding Meng's forehead. His whole body was enveloped by a gloomy human figure. This person was gray and misty, making it difficult to distinguish its gender and appearance. Chu Ming Liang looked as if he had seen the most frightening thing in the world. He immediately retreated a few steps, his eyes filled with alarm. You, don't tell me. You are surprisingly from the legendary Mao clan? Ding Meng was puzzled. What Mao clan? Little Rascal said. Don't pay attention to him. He's Ding Meng. Only then did Ding Meng notice that Little Rascal's round face had unexpectedly disappeared from his field of vision. However, Little Rascal's voice was exceptionally clear and pleasant to the ear. Ding Meng was aghast. Little Rascal, what happened to you? What happened to you? Little Rascal didn't answer his question. Instead, she muttered, I swear in the name of love that all things in the world depend on a single thought. I am willing to exchange my body for the blessings of the gods. As soon as she finished speaking, the gloomy human figure on Ding Meng's body dimmed significantly, as if it was slowly dispersing. Xiao AI also became anxious. Assistant system, Little Rascal, what are you doing? You will completely disappear if you do this. Come back, quickly come back. Little Rascal, what happened to you? What are you doing? Ding Meng felt that something was wrong. He could feel that a very special power was dispersing inside his body. He hadn't known about it before, but now he understood that this special power was actually Little Rascal. The most frightening thing was that he couldn't see Little Rascal, only hear her voice. Little Rascal seemed to be choking with sobs, but she also seemed to be very gratified. Ding Meng, I'm very happy to have been able to accompany you on this journey. I reap a lot of happiness. I've seen many rare and precious human qualities in you. You're strong, brave, upright, and never afraid of difficulties. You never give up no matter how desperate the situation is. Everything you've done along the way has made me think of many things that I've never considered in the past. Ding Meng's heart continued to sink when he heard Little Rascal speak in such a tone. Sure enough, Little Rascal's voice lowered. But I'm also very sad because this is as far as I can help you. Just like you've always said, perhaps this is my destiny. I may not be able to accompany you on the road in the future, but I hope that you can bravely move forward and protect those things that you believe are worth protecting and not become a greatest king. Her voice grew softer and softer until it was almost inaudible. Finally, it disappeared completely. At this moment, the 16 ghostly eyes on the 4 walls were activated once more and returned to their original form. This time, however, the transformation was extremely shocking. The 16 ghostly eyes left the walls and flew into the air to form a multicolored eye. Then, this multicolored eye poured into Ding Meng's body. This scene shocked everyone, including Chu Mingyang. He said in a trembling voice, "The protection order was actually lifted? The energy of the warehouse is actually gathered in your body?" In less than a second, Ding Meng discovered that the 8 origin points in his body had instantly returned to normal. His telekinesis vision quickly spread out, and with a light wave of his hand, the long sword on the ground spun in a circle and returned to his hand. However, Ding Meng felt an unprecedented sense of loss. He asked in a low voice, "Where's little rascal?" Xiao AI gritted her teeth and said angrily, "Little rascal is dead. She sacrificed herself to lift the protection order and open the warehouse for you. Now, the energy of the divine light is in your body. Ding Meng, immediately eliminate this rotten thing in front of you." Ding Meng did not hesitate. Anger erupted in his heart. His figure flashed, and he appeared behind Chu Mingyang. However, the sword flashed even faster. Chu Mingyang, who was in his energy form, was instantly cut in half. This scene was similar to the scene in the Star Wars world, where the corpse instantly turned into light and floated away. This sword immediately gave the people on the planet Destroyer a new hope. Everyone held their breaths again. However, this sword also made Ding Meng feel very uncomfortable. He found that his body was rapidly becoming heavier. Endless energy was forcibly poured into his body, causing his origin points to expand crazily. In an instant, they doubled in size. Not good. Xiao AI became nervous. The energy of the divine light is too large. Your body can't contain so much energy. You have to find a way to direct it somewhere else. You can only hold on for 5 minutes at most. Otherwise, your body will be in danger of exploding. Chu Mingliang's voice sounded again in the command center. "Ha ha ha. Do you think you can kill me? So what if you have obtained the energy of the divine light? You can't withstand its intensity. A weakling like you is not worthy of it. Only a strong person like me is qualified to use it." "Ha ha ha. Shit." Ding Meng also reacted. The entire spaceship was now like a drop of water. If he directed the excess energy to the propulsion system of the starship, it would undoubtedly be recharging it. That would only accelerate everyone's death. What should I do? Should I let little rascal's sacrifice be in vain? Chu Mingliang laughed even more arrogantly. "So what if you're from the Mao Xing race? In the end, you're just making a wedding dress for me. You can't run away. As long as you're inside this starship, the energy of the divine light will always be mine." Ha ha. Ding Meng had no interest in listening to its strange cries. His brain was thinking rapidly. If I continue to inject energy into the origin until it expands to a certain extent, will I be able to blow this damn thing up? Xiao AI said, "The possibility is very, very low. The probability is less than 2%. Now that it has the energy of the divine light, it can also withstand the impact of the explosion. I don't recommend you do this because if you blow yourself up, it's very likely that the energy of the warehouse will also explode. The water droplet may not necessarily be affected, but the nearby star systems will definitely be reduced to nothing. The planet destroyers and the patrol fleet behind will be blown to pieces. No one will be able to survive." Ding Meng was anxious. His eyes swept across every corner of the command center. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind. He finally came up with a good idea. His eyes focused slightly, and a large amount of telekinesis scattered on the 2 artificial bodies lying on the ground next to the control panel. At this moment, the power of the universal telekinesis was extremely strong. It instantly dispelled the infectious telekinesis in the artificial bodies and woke up Feng Jianjin and Xiao AI from their unconscious state. Then, he used the prototype to release his telepathic thoughts. Feng Jianjin also instantly understood what had just happened and also understood Ding Meng's intention. He could not help but be surprised. "Are you really going to do this?" Ding Meng urged. "Can it work?" Feng Jianjin nodded affirmatively. "Yes, it can. Divine light energy is different from technological energy. Strictly speaking, it's an extremely high-grade energy source. It has extremely wonderful effects, but he suddenly laughed bitterly. Ding Ming, are you not afraid of death? Ding Ming replied without hesitation. I am, Shui Mountain said. But why do you still want to do this? Ding Ming said proudly. It's better for me to die alone than for everyone to die. Didn't little rascal choose to sacrifice himself so that more people can live? Don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and do it. If you don't do it, I'll do it myself. Feng Jianjin and Shui Mountain looked at each other. The two of them were also inspired by Ding Ming's heroic spirit. Haha, we're not afraid of death. We're already dead anyway, so we don't mind dying one more time. I, Feng Jianjin, still want to leave my name in the history of the Holy Grail Federation. Chapter 375. As Kaze and Shui Mountain worked together on the control panel again, a sweet system voice rang through the entire SS expedition. The system is charging. Current capacity is 1%. Chu Ming Liang laughed again. What are these two little things trying to do? Are you planning to surrender? How dare you charge the power system? Du Peixing and the others were also puzzled. At this time, these two fellows chose to charge the power system of the SS expedition. Were they crazy? However, everyone soon noticed something strange. Ding Ming was standing beside the control panel. He slowly pressed his hand on the solid surface of the control panel. His hand was like a beam of light. After a few seconds, the control panel also turned into light. This was the system of Xinguang technology. Seeing the three of them so calm and composed, Chu Ming Liang finally smelled a hint of danger. These three people were up to something again. The system voice said, the system is charging. Current capacity is 8%. Not good. Chu Ming Liang realized that although he could absorb as much energy from the power system as he wanted, Ding Ming's charging was faster. It was obviously faster than his absorption. The power system's capacity was increasing by 2% every second. While he was distracted, the capacity rose to 26% in an instant. What are the three of them trying to do? The commander's eyes widened. This Xinguang technology is amazing, but there's no reason for it to charge the enemy. Once that monster absorbs enough energy, I'm afraid that even 5 masters won't be able to handle it. Ding Ming and the others can't be so stupid. He's definitely not as stupid as you think. A cold voice interrupted him mercilessly. The commander turned his head to look. Lan Bing was looking at the big screen expressionlessly. No one knows it better than I do. He has survived so many life and death crises. How could he do something stupid? He's the smartest and most cunning person I've ever met. Lan Bing's words were calm, but only Meng Yin could understand her slightly emotional tone. As Ding Ming's rival, Lan Bing had studied Ding Ming thoroughly. It was not easy for an enemy to have such a high opinion of you, especially someone like Lan Bing. The system's voice said, the system is charging. The current capacity is 100%. Chu Ming Liang didn't say anything. He seemed to be secretly observing the situation. What was Ding Ming and the other two up to? Following that, the sweet system voice woke everyone up. The system has exceeded its capacity. The current capacity is 102%. You bastard! Chu Ming Liang roared. What are you doing? Are you crazy? Du Peixing also shouted. Ding Ming, do you want to die? Ding Ming turned to look at the screen and said, Brother Du, please slow down the fleet. You may be affected later. This time, not to mention Du Peixing and Du Mo, even Lan Bing was moved. She now understood what kind of crazy move Ding Ming was doing. When the power system's capacity reached 100%, the SS expedition would fly at its fastest speed. At this speed, it could enter warp space and achieve warp flight. If it exceeded 100%, it would require space transmission. Ding Ming was clearly going to inject the powerful divine light energy into the power furnace and use the SS expedition to open a wormhole. Finally, it would perform a space jump and randomly teleport people and the ship into the unknown star region. This would make the water droplet disappear from the Federation star system forever. Even if the water droplet could survive, it would never know where its interstellar coordinates were. In that case, everyone would be saved. Chu Ming Liang's voice roared. You three lunatics? This starship's technological level is too low. It's also a product of human civilization 30 years ago. Forcefully opening a wormhole will cause the starship to disintegrate. Stop. Stop right now. I know. Ding Ming looked calm, but his right hand continued to inject energy. That was my plan. Once the starship disintegrates, you will disintegrate too. The system's voice said, the system has exceeded its capacity. The current capacity is 156%. You son of a B***TCH. Chu Ming Liang roared in exasperation. If you use the divine light energy to open a wormhole on this starship, the starship will not be able to withstand the compression of the four-dimensional space. By then, you will be torn into pieces and crushed into dust. Furthermore, you don't have a star map. If you are teleported to the dark star region, absolute zero, or death vacuum, these uninhabited, unknown worlds, there will be no material energy and no supplies. We will all be exhausted, suffocated, and starved to death. Ding Ming nodded calmly. That's right. That's what I want. You're really crazy. Chu Ming Liang's voice finally began to tremble. You'll get us all killed. Stop it now. Ding Ming suddenly laughed. So you also know fear. So you're also afraid of death. I really thought you were unkillable. You claim to be a highly intelligent life form in the universe and regarded us humans as inferior creatures. But you didn't expect that one day an ant could defeat an elephant. You will be dragged into the abyss by the inferior civilization. This time, we will all go to hell together. Chu Ming Liang was completely enraged. In the next moment, another ray of light descended from the sky above the hall. Chu Ming Liang's energy form quickly took shape and flew towards the main control panel. Ding Ming finally revealed a disdainful sneer. You're even more childish than I am. Seeing that Chu Ming Liang was about to reach him, everyone's hearts were in their throats. Who would have thought that Ding Ming would open his mouth and spit out a breath? It looked like air, but it was actually an invisible energy. The energy of the divine light crystal was terrifying. Chu Ming Liang was immediately blown away by this breath. He flew into the air and disappeared with a whoosh. Everyone was deeply shocked. Even Chu Ming Liang himself was shocked. Ding Ming's strength had increased by thousands of times in an instant. This was simply a miracle. Although the energy form only had the strength of a phantom dragon, Ding Ming had gone all out to deal with the phantom dragon before. But now, Ding Ming could blow away the energy form with a single breath. How could the divine light crystal in the warehouse be so exaggerated? I don't believe it. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. There was a series of rapid sounds, and dozens of rays of light descended. A group of Chu Ming Liangs appeared in the hall. They rushed towards the main control panel without saying a word. It was as exaggerated as a tidal wave. Ding Ming was still infusing energy. He didn't even bother to look at them. He raised his left hand slightly, and the exquisite crown image immediately enveloped the entire control panel. When the Chu Ming Liang's clones collided with the image, they were like moths to a flame. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Dozens of rays of white light rose up. How you came here, you'll go back to where you came from. As for you wanting to stop me from activating the teleportation array, you should give up on that thought. The current situation is that you can't even get close to me. The system's voice. The system has exceeded its capacity. The current capacity is 238%. Feng Jian's voice trembled. He couldn't help but look up at Ding Ming. If the capacity exceeds 300%, we might be randomly teleported to an unknown star field 100 light-years away. It's too close. Ding Ming replied calmly. He exerted more force with his right hand. Now, even half of his shoulder had turned into light. I want this rotten thing to disappear forever. Damn it. Chu Ming Liang also knew that things were getting serious. This was because he had underestimated Ding Ming's determination. Perhaps what he had really underestimated was human emotions, which was also the value of rationality. At this moment, Ding Meng's heart was unusually calm. Scenes of the past appeared in his mind. In the black gold base, he let Little Four go first. It was a kind gesture, but Little Four repaid him with his life. On the swordfish spaceship, he only used a stake to save Xinjie, who was on the verge of starvation. Xinjie saved him again and again. On planet TT-12, he was taken in by Old Yu when he was penniless. Old Yu helped him selflessly until he left. On planet V4, he only used his blood to alleviate the poison in Shui Yin and the others, but Meng Yin was willing to follow him for life. There are also Dai Yi, Du Mo, Irene, Cartel, Liu, and the others. They also selflessly and sincerely helped him and fought for him. Although they were not as righteous as Zheng Ming, Yu Xingyang, and the others, they were all Ding Meng's friends. As long as they were his friends, he would do his best for his friends. At the last moment of life and death, he realized that having friends in life was the happiest thing. He had so many friends that even if he sacrificed his life for them, it was not something to regret. Just like this vast starry sky, it always needed many stars to fill it up. Only when they reflected each other's brilliance could the starry sky blossom with the most resplendent beauty, and Ding Meng would be the brightest star in this starry sky. At this moment, the starry sky had been distorted. A long and narrow space-time crack had been torn in the star field in front of the SS expedition. In the middle of the crack, there was a black hole. It seemed to have an irresistible gravitational force, sucking in everything around it. From afar, it looked like a huge whirlpool. Ding Meng knew that he could not inject any more energy. If he did, the SS expedition would self-destruct. The system's voice. The system has exceeded its capacity. The current capacity is 408%. All crew members, please pay attention. The space jump system has been activated. The ship will be randomly teleported in 60 seconds. Turn it off quickly. Chu Ming Liang roared crazily. But what greeted him was Fujin Zhen's merciless mockery. You still dare to say that you are the greatest king. I think you're more like all-mouthy king. Other than shouting, what else can you do? Meng Yin suddenly thought of something and immediately shouted, Mr. Ting, hurry up and use Chu Ying transmission to send us back. Everyone suddenly understood. At this time, the signal between the two ships was interconnected. Chu Ying transmission could send the three of them back to the planet destroyer. Ding Meng did not answer. His expression was firm. Fujin Zhen sighed. The three of us can't leave. Once we leave, that damn thing will cancel the space jump instantly. Meng Yin was completely dumbfounded. At this time, the black hole suddenly emitted a strong light. It was so bright that everyone could not open their eyes. The final countdown for the teleportation had begun. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Chapter 376. The USS expedition was like a drop of water in the universe, slowly being sucked into the brilliant vortex in the center of the starry sky. Ding Meng looked up at the holographic screen on the main control console, and a bright smile appeared on his face. Thank you for letting me come to your world. Goodbye, friends. As soon as his voice fell, the vortex shrank rapidly, and all the light disappeared. The space-time crack also healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. 3 seconds later, it completely disappeared. The starry sky returned to its calm state, and the universe was still vast and beautiful, as if nothing had happened. However, the thrilling scenes from before, and Ding Meng's final words of farewell, remained in everyone's heart forever. Erin's tears fell like beads from a broken string. She choked and said, Ding Meng, did he just leave like that? We watched all this happen, but there was nothing we could do. We could only watch him die. Meng Yin also shed tears. Mr. Ting, I promise to follow you forever. I only hate that I can't keep up with your footsteps. I hope we can meet again in the next life. Dumo's eyes were also filled with tears. He clenched his fists and said, Ding Meng, I didn't expect you to do such an earth-shattering thing. I really hate that I can't fight with you. Du Peixing and the commander looked sad. They silently took off their military caps. All the soldiers and staff on the planet destroyer also took off their caps silently. They lowered their heads and said nothing. They knew that everyone's life, and even the entire human race in the Federal Empire, was won by Ding Meng with his own life and fearless courage. Lan Bing stared at the screen in a daze. She was in a trance, but there was also a glimmer of light in her eyes. After a long time, she took a deep breath and murmured, "You are really an amazing man." On the other side of the universe, the USS Expedition had already entered the wormhole. This was a bizarre space-time tunnel. Ding Meng and the other two felt that this was an irregular and twisted tunnel. The starship was shuttling through it at an incredible speed. The outside was in the form of light and fog, and the light and fog contained a huge amount of information flow. The starship's system could not receive such a huge amount of information. Moreover, the starship seemed to be strongly squeezed by the information flow. The whole ship rumbled and shook violently. The system was being destroyed bit by bit. Chu Ming Liang actually let out an unprecedented cry of fear. "What's going on?" Ding Ming asked quickly. Shuiyu Mountain said, "That's strange. We didn't attack it." Feng Jinjin's eyes lit up. "I understand now. Previously, it merged with the USS Expedition and used the energy of the Divine Light to form a protective shield around the USS Expedition. Its purpose was to prevent the Federation's fleet from attacking the USS Expedition. But now, it has blocked the attack of the cosmic storm for us. This is called thinking that it was smart, but it ended up being a victim of its own cleverness." Ding Meng was amused. "It also has a day like this?" Shuiyu Mountain simply shouted, "Hey, damn it, do you feel good now?" Chu Ming Liang's voice was filled with pain. "You three bastards. How dare you exceed the capacity of the starship by 400%. I won't let you go. If I die later, your outer protection will be gone. You will be torn into pieces by the huge energy of the four-dimensional space. You can't even return to the three-dimensional space. You want me to die with you? Let's see who will die with whom." Ding Meng pondered and said, "Is that so?" Xiao AI said, "The possibility of that is very high. Right now, there are all kinds of unknown particles, rays, and energy storms outside. I can't analyze their composition at all, but I think that even spore life forms will find it difficult to resist." Ding Meng laughed coldly. "If that's the case, I'll make it difficult for you to die. Didn't you want me to suffer a fate worse than death? Let's see who will suffer a fate worse than death." He reached out and pressed his palm on the main console. The energy of the Divine Light warehouse was too huge. Ding Meng couldn't withstand it all. He took this opportunity to inject it into the propulsion system. Let's see if this droplet is really afraid of death. Fujin Jun was also amused. "Wonderful. If it doesn't want to die, it can only absorb the energy of the propulsion system and continue to resist the cosmic storm, shielding us from the wind and rain." Ding Meng, this move of yours is really brilliant. The hologram on the main console clearly showed the data. The propulsion system was decreasing at a rate of 1,000th per second. If this wasn't the droplet absorbing the energy, who else could it be? Chu Ming Liang's voice was filled with pain and anger. "You three bastards. How dare you make fun of me like this? After I withstand this storm, I'll deal with you three." Ding Meng laughed. "I don't think you can withstand the power of the universe for long." "Huh?" Shuiyu Mountain was overjoyed. "Face the storm. Bastard. Bastard. Bastard." Chu Ming Liang could only curse continuously. "Ha ha ha." Ding Meng and the other two laughed together in the command room. The insufferably powerful droplet was being toyed with in the palms of their hands. This feeling was incomparably satisfying. Although everyone understood that no matter how huge the energy of the Divine Light was, it couldn't withstand the impact of the four-dimensional space for long. Ding Meng would use up all the energy sooner or later. Before that, the droplet would definitely be annihilated in the space-time tunnel. However, this was enough. No matter what, this rotten thing would die before them. As for Ding Meng and the other two, life and death were no longer a concern. All that was left was to laugh to their heart's content. Sure enough, After an unknown amount of time, Chu Ming Liang's voice no longer roared. It seemed like he was muttering to himself in a language that no one could understand. After that, it seemed like he was panting in a low voice. Finally, it completely disappeared. At this time, the starship began to tremble violently. The three of them could clearly feel that the starship was rapidly disintegrating. The system couldn't even make any sound, and the light screens were being extinguished one by one. In the darkness, Ding Meng sat quietly on the ground. His heart was unprecedentedly calm because he knew that the moment of true death was coming. He only had one last thought left. Brother Zhengming, Mr. Yu, Shao Si, I've finally come to see you. Wait for me. Holy Grail Federation, Blue Moon Planet, Blue Pole Star City. The central plaza in front of the Starbow Corporation building was filled with people of all shapes and sizes. They came from different regions and different social classes. Some of them were refugees, some of them were citizens, some of them were origin ability users, and some of them were famous people. However, they were all gathered here today, looking up at the sky as if they were waiting for someone to arrive. After a long time, a rainbow bird spaceship indeed appeared in the sky. After the spaceship landed, the two people who walked out of the connecting cabin were Du Peixing in uniform and the solemn-looking transit string. The two of them represented the upper echelons of the military and the upper echelons of the Starbow Corporation. Behind them were Cartel, Su Mengqing, Fu Zhonghui, Xingming, Zhengmei, Sha Shige, Qingyan, and a few other men in suits. These people represented the Starbow Corporation, Shenghao Corporation, Tianheng Corporation, and the other major corporations. When he saw Du Peixing arrive, Du Imo immediately went to greet him. How is it? Du Peixing immediately turned his head to look at the transit string. The transit string said with a solemn face, "You should tell them yourself." Du Peixing sighed helplessly and lowered his head. Everyone, the Federation has sent out 6 superfleets to search for 2 months. They have searched and detected many star systems in outer space. Unfortunately, we couldn't find any trace of the expedition. If I'm not mistaken, Ding Meng should have died in outer space. Everyone, I'm very sorry. We've done our best. Everyone lowered their heads sadly. Everyone knew that this was probably the result, but when Du Peixing said it himself, the hundreds of people in the square still felt sad. Most of them here were people who had received Ding Meng's kindness. They obviously couldn't accept Ding Meng's sudden departure. Almost everyone here had watched the video uploaded by the Star Destroyer at least 10 times. Ding Meng's determination in the battle and when he left the expedition had deeply shocked everyone, especially the refugees of planet KV-303. A Qiao was still crying even now, supported by Xiao Wei. Du Peixing continued. The upper echelons don't want to cause panic among the citizens of the Federation, so this incident will be classified as top secret and will not be made public. My condolences. Fang Jinghao sighed helplessly. We can understand, but Ding Meng is a hero to us. Shouldn't heroes be commemorated? The transit string sighed. Commander Fang, I'm sadder than any of you, but this is a decision made by the upper echelons of the Federation. Forgive us for not being able to do anything. I've already ordered everyone to bring KV-303 to the Federation so that they can enjoy the rest of their lives. Shenghao, Xinghong, and Tianheng will work together to settle everyone's citizenship. This can be considered as fulfilling Ding Meng's wish when he was alive. Silman sighed. If Ding Meng can live, I'd rather stay on planet KV-303 for the rest of my life. Someone in the crowd immediately agreed. That's right. We'd rather live in ice and snow for the rest of our lives than let Brother Ding leave. Gulaga, Yu Liang, and the others raised their arms and cheered. Shuiyan sighed. Sigh, Ding Meng is really a good kid. Ren Tianlan, who was beside her, also sighed. From the first day I saw him, I also felt that this kid was extraordinary. I didn't expect that one day he would not only save us, but also the entire Federation. Yao Manru was also watching the situation. Her expression was indescribably regretful and gratified. She turned her head and said, Ranjun, Xiao, he still has good taste. Dai Ranjun sighed. I hope Xiaoi can take it easy. Not far away, Aaron, and Su Qianqian stood together by the flower bed. Aaron and Su Qianqian looked very sad, but Dai's expression was thoughtful. Then it became firm because she was silently saying in her heart, "No, I don't believe that you, Ding Meng, will die. I know that you must have a way to live. One day, you will come back. You were so powerful on the expedition. I can't fall behind. Ding Meng, I will wait for you to come back forever." In the other corner of the crowd, Lan Bing silently retreated and slowly walked to the street outside the central square. There were still many people on the street, but the combination of a woman and a man by the bench was very strange. The man was only about 20 years old, but the woman was 32 or 33 years old, about the same age as Lan Bing. Moreover, the woman had a good figure and a beautiful face. However, Lan Bing still noticed the difference at a glance. Although the woman looked pure and natural, her skin was darker. Although she was smiling, there was a hint of decisiveness between her eyebrows. It was obvious that this woman was also a person with a strong heart. Most importantly, the woman's palms were covered with thick calluses. Obviously, like Lan Bing, she must have been engaged in heavy physical labor when she was young. At this time, the boy skipped to the woman's side. "Big sister, I heard that they're talking about a person with the surname Ding." The woman smiled and said, "What's that person's name?" The boy said, "Ding Meng." The woman's smile deepened, and her eyes glowed. "Thank you, little brother." She stood up and looked like she was about to leave. The boy quickly chased after her. "Big sister, you helped me so much. I only helped you with such a small thing. I'm a little embarrassed." The woman smiled. "Don't mind it." The boy said, "Big sister, I wonder, can you tell me your name?" The woman pondered, and a confident smile appeared on her face again. "Sure, no problem, I can tell you. My surname is also Ding. My name is Ding Wenhe." Chapter 377. Chi, Chi, Chi. Ding Meng slowly opened his eyes as he heard the sound of charging electricity. He suddenly realized that the command center was still intact. The control panel had been reactivated, and the system was repairing itself. No. Didn't the starship disintegrate in the wormhole? Wasn't he supposed to be dead? Why was he still on the expedition? Xiao AI's cold voice immediately answered, "Ding Meng, you're not dead. The expedition has now left the wormhole and entered the three-dimensional space." "Then where are we now?" Ding Meng quickly got up and walked to the control panel. Xiao AI said, "I don't know. We're now in a brand new, unknown space." The 5 screens generated by the reconnaissance system were all black. This blackness meant that outside the starship was an eternally dark world. There were no planets, no particle rays, no signals, and no waves. It was as if they were in a sealed black space. The interstellar map could not be generated either. Just as the water droplets said, the expedition had been sent to the depths of the vast sea of stars. It was very likely to be a dark star field, absolute zero, or a death vacuum. If one could not find a way out, even a powerful origin ability user would be worn down by the long passage of time. However, Ding Meng was too lazy to think about these troublesome questions. It was already a blessing in disguise that he was able to survive the cosmic storm of the wormhole. He even felt that there really was a God in the unseen world, and that the heavens had once again taken care of him, giving him another chance to live. What about Little Rascal? This was what he was really concerned about. Xiao AI was silent for a long time. "Little Rascal is dead." Ding Meng was skeptical. Is she really dead? It was normal for him to have such suspicions. When he first came into contact with Little Rascal said that Little AI had died in the process of modifying him. But later on, when the energy carrier of the K virus was found, Little AI was reactivated. In the end, he still could not bear to part with Little Rascal. Not only did he have a deep relationship with Little Rascal, but he also felt that Little Rascal was his mischievous little sister. It was also because he had no family that he felt that this relationship was especially precious. Xiao AI said, "She's really gone. At the very least, I can't find her anymore. You should feel the same way." Ding Ming suddenly recalled the scene of the fight against the water droplet. Chu Ming Liang said something about the Mao Xing clan? Are you referring to Little Rascal? Xiao AI sighed. It's a long story. A long time ago, I suspected that Little Rascal wasn't a real AI program. Ding Ming asked in surprise. Then what is she? Xiao AI said. She's also a spirit, but she's different from the spirit bodies of you humans. She probably comes from a very powerful civilization. This civilization might be the Mao Xing civilization that Droplet is afraid of. It's more advanced than the Spore civilization and the Xinguang civilization. You saw it that day, too. Little Rascal was able to unlock Xinguang Technology's protective command just by talking. In the name of love, everything in the world is tied to a single thought. I'm willing to exchange my body for the blessings of the gods. This was what Little Rascal had chanted at Ding Ming's most dangerous moment. Our human civilization is more advanced than the lower civilizations in the fields of emotion, philosophy, and religion. And in the more advanced civilizations, I believe that the true leading forces are also related to the fields of evolution. It's just that they have a deeper understanding of these fields than we do, a deeper understanding of them, and a more skillful use of them. Principal Zhu Bin's words were effective on Little Rascal. Ding Ming couldn't help but believe it. Xiao AI's analysis was infinitely close to the truth. But even if Xiao AI is a spirit, why does she exist in a biochip and even fuse with me? Ding Ming asked. Xiao AI sighed and said, Ding Ming, I really can't answer your question because in my current database, the Mao Xing race is a new term and I know nothing about it. The only thing I can answer for you is that Little Rascal is indeed a spirit body, an extremely powerful one at that. Only recently did I realize that she hid it very well. Ding Ming frowned. Why? Xiao AI said, Ding Ming, ever since you started cultivating the Diamond Star technique, your origins have been successfully constructed one by one. Our authority levels have also been increasing accordingly. Do you have this feeling? Sometimes Little Rascal is like a naughty and willful little girl, but sometimes she's like a stubborn, mature woman. Sometimes she's very evil, but sometimes she's very kind. She's full of energy and has a lot to say. She's very strange and can think of anything. Hearing her endless description, Ding Ming's heart immediately warmed. That's right. That's Little Rascal's personality. Xiao AI said, but recently I've noticed that Little Rascal is always hesitant to speak. She always shuts up halfway. Is this normal? Ding Ming said, Is this not normal? Xiao AI said, It's impossible for an AI program to be so perfect. The reason is simple. She already has consciousness, emotions, and the so-called humanity that you humans have. So at the last moment, she didn't hesitate to sacrifice herself to obtain the divine light energy for you. She wanted you to live. Can an AI program achieve this kind of value and rationality? Ding Ming, I'm very happy to have accompanied you on this journey. I've reaped a lot of happiness. I've also seen many rare and precious human qualities in you. You're strong, brave, righteous, and never afraid of difficulties. No matter how desperate the situation is, you never give up. Everything you've done along the way has made me think of many things that I've never thought of in the past. But I'm also very sad because I can only help you to this point. Just like you usually say, perhaps this is my destiny. I might not be able to accompany you on the road in the future, but I hope that you can bravely move forward and protect those things that you think are worth protecting and not become a greatest king. Little Rascal's farewell seemed to be right next to his ear. Ding Ming suddenly felt a lump in his throat. When Little Rascal was still by his side, he knew that Little Rascal was very important to him. But when Little Rascal had truly left and disappeared, he understood one thing. Little Rascal was actually so important to him. It was completely a part of his life that he couldn't part with. Why did he have to wait until he lost something before he learned to cherish it? But if he hadn't lost it, how could he cherish it? Ding Ming sighed helplessly. Okay, how can I reactivate Little Rascal? Sorry, I don't know either. Xiao AI said helplessly. According to my calculations, if you want Little Rascal to come back, You'll have to fulfill many conditions, but these conditions are almost impossible for you to fulfill. Ding Ming gritted his teeth and said, "Tell me, what do you need me to do?" Xiao AI explained, "Before you came into contact with the K virus, Little Rascal was sealed inside an intelligent biochip. With the technological level of the Holy Grail Federation, it's very difficult to do this." Ding Ming could understand this logic. Human spirits had to rely on crystalline energy artificial bodies, because artificial bodies could be continuously charged to maintain the existence of electromagnetic fields. However, the biochip did not have this function, so even if a human spirit was sealed inside a biochip, it would die very quickly. However, Little Rascal could cling on for a long time. This was not because the biochip was too advanced, but because Little Rascal's spirit was different from human spirits. Xiao AI said, "You can understand it as Little Rascal being a spirit of the Maoxing race. Theoretically speaking, such a spirit is like a water droplet. It's very difficult for it to truly die." Ding Ming was a little confused. "Didn't you say that it's already dead?" Xiao AI said, "The dead I'm referring to as the dead we understand on this level. I can't find it, and you can't sense it either. This is indeed dead, but what about on a higher level? Perhaps it still exists. If the water droplet is so powerful that even it is afraid of Little Rascal, then shouldn't Little Rascal be alive on a higher level? Perhaps it has entered a dormant state, or perhaps it has regressed back to its original state. After all, the higher civilizations in the universe are much more complex and advanced than we can imagine." Ding Ming understood. "You're saying that Little Rascal's spirit should still exist. It's just that we can't find it?" Xiao AI said, "There are still some misconceptions in your understanding. Think about it. When the biochip fused with you, it was actually Little Rascal who fused with you. How did Little Rascal communicate with you? It's that unique point of connection in your field of vision. This point of connection is something unique to you. What exactly is it? You'll have to ask yourself that." Ding Ming smiled bitterly. "Even I don't know the composition of this point of connection, so I can't investigate it." Xiao AI said, "That's right. It's very likely that your strength hasn't reached that level, so you can't peek at it. It's also possible that it requires a certain special method to open it. The composition of this point of connection, its function, its effect, or perhaps its secret is the key to reactivating Little Rascal." Ding Ming said, "You're making it sound too complicated. I still don't understand." Xiao AI said helplessly, "How about this? If you slowly circulate your origin energy now, you'll discover something new." Ding Ming immediately sat down cross-legged on the ground and slowly spread out his telekinesis field of vision. He quickly saw that the 8 origin points in his body had originally radiated golden origin energy, but now they had all turned into glowing white molecules. On his forehead, a pearl-shaped imprint had appeared. This imprint was very strange. It wasn't an origin point, but it could establish a connection with his origin points and the origin smelting space. All of the white molecules had been transformed by this imprint. The origin energy on this starship was very thin, so it was naturally very easy to absorb it. However, Ding Ming discovered a problem. The speed of absorption didn't change, but the rate at which the origin energy in his body was refined had slowed down tremendously. "What's going on here?" Ding Ming was curious. Xiao AI said, "This imprint that Little Rascal left you has the effect of transforming the origin energy in your body, making it purer and more powerful. Secondly, it's precisely because of this imprint that the degree of fusion between your origin energy molecules and your blood molecules has increased, far surpassing that of a human origin energy cultivator. Strictly speaking, you've already broken away from the concept of an origin energy cultivator." Ding Ming smiled bitterly again. "I still don't understand." Chapter 378. Xiao AI said, "Let me explain it to you in layman's terms. In the past, you used your telekinesis vision to absorb origin energy to become an origin ability user. The origin energy in your body is the most natural dark matter energy in the universe. Through the construction of the origin, you accumulated them together to produce quantitative changes. That's how you came to the ranks of warrior, war venerable, and war master. Ding Ming hesitated. Aren't they now? Xiao AI said. After you started cultivating the diamond star fusing art, the accumulation of origin energy changed. You refined even more origin energy and converted it into origin energy. As a result, you became even stronger than ordinary origin energy users. Ding Ming said, "Is it a qualitative change now?" Xiao AI said, "Correct. You should have noticed that your origin energy has been transformed into white molecules under the effect of the imprint. This new molecule can not only contain origin energy, but it can also contain more. It can also fuse with other types of energy, such as the energy from Xinguang Technologies. I analyzed it carefully while you were resting. It can be said that it's made up of pure natural crystals that are dozens or even hundreds of times stronger. How can a human origin ability user contain this kind of energy?" Ding Ming frowned. "But back in the warehouse, this energy instantly restored me. I didn't feel any discomfort." Xiao AI said, "I'm guessing this has something to do with Little Rascal. But when Little Rascal opened the warehouse, you couldn't contain it anymore. Not only was the quantity huge, but there were also many complex molecules that I couldn't analyze." Ding Ming said, "I understand. The diamond star fusing art allows me to convert origin energy and crystal energy, but this imprint allows me to absorb more types of energy. For example, Xinguang Technologies energy or more types of energy in the universe." Xiao AI nodded. "That's the gist of it. The situation was very critical back then, and Little Rascal definitely didn't have time to explain all this to you. That's why he left the imprint to you. At least for a short period of time, you'll be fine absorbing the energy in the warehouse. If it were someone else, their body would have exploded." Ding Ming sighed. "No matter what, whether I find it or activate it, I must bring Little Rascal back." Xiao AI said, "There's another way to bring Little Rascal back." "What way?" Ding Ming quickly asked. Xiao AI said, "If we can find the Mao Xing civilization in the universe, then all our problems will be solved." Ding Ming smiled bitterly. "This is at least 100 million times more difficult than dealing with the water droplets." Xiao AI said, "I also know that this is unrealistic, but since you mentioned the droplet, I also need to remind you that the droplet is not dead." "What?" Ding Ming was so shocked that he stood up at once. "This guy is really still alive?" Xiao AI said, "This kind of Kelvin spore life form is almost unkillable, but you can rest assured that the intense cosmic storm in the wormhole has already beaten it back to its original form." Ding Ming asked in a low voice, "Where is it now?" Xiao AI's words were shocking. "It's in your body." Ding Ming was extremely shocked. "How is that possible?" Xiao AI said, "Enter the elementary consciousness space." Ding Ming immediately sat down cross-legged and opened his telekinesis vision. The elementary consciousness space had not changed. There was a dark beach, a simple hut, rough rocks, and endless waves. The Phantom was standing on the beach and spreading out his right hand. A crystal-clear water droplet was floating in his palm. Ding Ming carefully observed it and said, "So, it's in my brain, but I can feel that it only has a weak vitality now. It doesn't have the powerful and dangerous aura it had before. What's going on?" Xiao AI explained, "Actually, this kind of spore life form was originally born in the most extreme and cruel environment in the universe. After billions of years of evolution, it was able to adapt to that environment. However, when it truly appeared as a life form, it was influenced by its origin." Ding Ming frowned. "Origin?" Xiao AI said, "I'll have to give you another example. For example, in the oceans of the human world, there must be a lot of cellular life forms. They don't have sunlight or oxygen, and their lives are very short. This is the initial form of spore life forms. However, if they are trapped in eternal darkness and the environment is extremely hot and cold, they will have existed for billions of years. After continuous evolution and elimination, they will have a very strong ability to adapt. However, at this time, their memories will be blank. Ding Ming asked, "What do you mean?" Xiao AI said, "It's very simple. They don't have any experience. They're just purely surviving. However, this kind of life form has an extremely strong ability to replicate and evolve. I'm guessing that their original environment must have been discovered by another civilization. This civilization is very likely to advocate force and desire to be strong, so they have the same memories." Ding Meng said, "You're saying that the origin of the droplet is a blank piece of paper. Someone left a message on this blank piece of paper. These messages are about killing, war, devouring, evolution, and so on. The droplet grew according to this train of thought." Xiao AI said, "Absolutely. Let's not talk about other things. Just look at the people it devoured. Chu Ming Liang, Quan Jin Wei, Fuma Jin, Shuiyu Mountain, Guping, Kuan Ping. Which one of them doesn't advocate force?" Chu Ming Liang is a typical old fox and a schemer. Ding Ming nodded. "I understand now. The droplet is like a child. It was instilled with dark thoughts when it was born. When it grows up, it will definitely be evil." Xiao AI said, "But in the previous space storm, not only was its physical body destroyed, but its previous memories were also all gone. It is now, in its original form, just a blank piece of paper, a pure cellular soul. It instinctively chooses to survive. On the expedition, it can only choose to rely on you." Ding Ming said, "It's strange. I didn't control it, but it doesn't seem to want to go out." Xiao AI said, "Because your universal telekinesis has completely suppressed it, and according to my observation, it will grow up and leave you sooner or later. It's worth mentioning that your future actions and thoughts will deeply affect it. But Ding Ming, you are qualitatively different from people like Chu Ming Liang. If you have a positive influence on it, it won't harm people in the future." Ding Ming nodded and withdrew his telekinesis. "Should we do something now?" Xiao AI said, "I suggest that we recharge the two souls first. Their energy is almost depleted, and the situation on the expedition is very bad. If there are any more accidents, no one can save us this time." The first thing Fuma Jin and Shuiyu Mountain did after waking up was to operate the main control panel. After various screens were generated, the two of them remained silent. In fact, Ding Meng saw it. He did not understand other things, but he could still recognize the three-dimensional model. The expedition was shaped like an apple placed on a stone slab. Now, half of the apple had been cut off, and the stone slab was also tattered. Many parts of the exterior were damaged, and it could be said that it was like a stone slab drifting in space. The bridge was located inside, and the thrusters and engines were installed on the wings. If it was at the tail, then the expedition would be a space coffin. But Ding Meng and the others were lucky. The violent space storm in the wormhole did not cause any destructive damage to the core facilities. Fuma Jin said, "We can't accelerate now, at least not casually. The energy converted by the silver core stone must be used for detection and search as much as possible." Shuiyu Mountain also sighed. "This ship is too damaged. Many parts need to be repaired. At the very least, the booster compartment, the energy compartment, and the engine compartment must be repaired. Otherwise, we won't be able to sail far." Ding Ming said, "If everything is fixed, how long can we last?" Fuma Jin seemed to be worried. "At our current speed, we can only accelerate slightly every once in a while and then use the stacking speed to drift. This energy can last for more than 40 years, but it's definitely not going to work. The quantum radar can currently detect in Area 0.05 light years away, but the feedback is still nothing but darkness. There is nothing." Ding Ming also nodded with a serious expression. "We have to accelerate," Shuiyu Mountain said. "Warp flight is definitely not possible, and it's not realistic to enter warp mode either. But if we keep stacking speed according to the third universal speed, and at the same time keep the radar working for a long time, the energy can be maintained for a much shorter time." Ding Ming said, "How long can it last?" Fuma Jin extended two metal fingers. 2 years at most. After 2 years, if we don't have any supplies, or if we can't find a planet and are still in this space, that will be the worst outcome. Ding Ming naturally understood this outcome. By then, the SS expedition would be completely exhausted and become a ghost ship in the depths of space. Not to mention whether other starships would be able to discover them. Even if they encountered meteorites or space junk, they would not be able to avoid them. They could only wait for death. Ding Ming said, "We can't wait for 40 years. That's a slow suicide." Fuma Jean said seriously, "The elders and I have the same idea. We can't just wait. We have to actively search for a chance of survival. The problem now is, which direction should we fly in?" Ding Ming pondered and said, "I have an idea. We can find out by absorbing origin energy." Origin energy was omnipresent in the universe. The difference was whether it was thin or thick. Origin energy users could feel it when they cultivated. A simple example would be the 5 suns of the K8 system on the Dead Silent Star. The closer one was to the Liang star, the denser the origin energy was. By sensing the thinness of the origin energy, one could roughly determine the position of the star. Fuma Jean was once an origin energy user, so he naturally understood the origin energy involved. He immediately did some calculations on the control panel. Brother Ding is a combat master. On average, he can determine the direction of flight once every 20 days. Shuiyu Mountain said, "You've all forgotten one thing. The rest cabins on the SS expedition have long been destroyed. This ship doesn't even have a single sensor cabin. How can we cultivate?" Ding Ming knew that in this desperate situation, there was no way to hide anything. He could only take the initiative to say, "I can absorb origin energy without a sensor cabin." Fuma Jean and Shuiyu Mountain stared at him as if they were looking at a monster. "Are you for real?" Ding Ming sighed helplessly. "What else can I do? Think about it. I became a combat master at the age of 22. Do you think I could rely on the absorption speed of the sensor cabin to cultivate?" Fuma Jean and Shuiyu Mountain were speechless. "So in the end, you're the real monster." Chapter 379. The repair work was not easy. It took the 3 of them 2 weeks to barely stabilize the ship. After that, Shuiyu Mountain was in charge of navigating the ship, while Masa Fujin searched the ship for damaged equipment and equipment. Every resource on the ship had to be used as much as possible because everyone was mentally prepared. They might be saved the next day, or they might be drifting in the endless darkness forever. It was never wrong to be more prepared. After Ding Ming checked the thrusters and other facilities, he went straight to the observation cabin on the ship. This observation cabin was actually the radar area at the top of the ship. Through the crystal glass, he could see the outside world with his naked eye. However, it was still dark outside, so Ding Ming could only sit down and start cultivating. Just as Xiao AI had said, the rate at which Ding Ming absorbed origin energy didn't slow down after obtaining the Pearl Imprint. However, the rate at which origin energy was being refined and circulated had slowed down significantly. This wasn't because Ding Ming's efficiency had decreased. Rather, it was because the origin energy particles being refined had become purer and more powerful. "Can I cultivate the 9th origin now?" Ding Ming thought that he had enough time now. Xiao AI said, "In theory, you can, but there's not enough energy here. If you want to cultivate using the traditional method of absorbing origin energy while constructing, I've calculated that you'll need many years." Ding Ming was a little helpless. "Then how about I observe the 9th origin first? That way, I can prepare in advance." Xiao AI pondered and said, "With your current strength, you can observe it, but the 9th origin is extremely difficult. It's not inferior to the overall difficulty of the previous 8. Are you sure you want to take a look?" Of course, Ding Ming wanted to take a look. No matter how difficult it was, could it be more difficult than dealing with a water droplet? He had been through so much already. Why would he be afraid of observing a single origin? In a mid-level consciousness space, a huge image slowly unfolded in Ding Ming's field of vision. This was clearly an interstellar map, with magnificent galaxies, eternally shining stars, and all kinds of strange celestial phenomena. This was the original appearance of a universe. Ding Meng asked curiously, "This doesn't seem difficult, does it?" Xiao AI said disdainfully, "Not difficult? I've only shrunk the inside of the origin. Now, I'll enlarge it for you to take a good look." Swish. Ding Meng felt as if he had flown into the vast sea of stars. At this time, he knew how difficult this point was. In addition to the normal dynamic phenomena, such as the rotation of the planets, other strange cosmic celestial phenomena dazzled him. Sauron's Hawkeye, Scarlet Moon, Zombie Star, Black Hole Mutual Attraction, Cosmic Fountain, Electromagnetic Sphere. All kinds of dynamics overwhelmed him. Roughly judging, these dynamics were almost refreshed in dozens of origin construction units, and compared with the total construction of the eighth point, it was at least 10 times stronger. Damn, this really wasn't something that a human could cultivate. Ding Meng sighed. It'll take at least a few years, right? Xiao AI said, "A few years? You're thinking too simply. With your current cultivation environment, you won't be able to successfully construct it without at least 30 years of cultivation. If you had the help of the inverse source crystal in the Star Rainbow group, you would need at least 3 years, even at your limit. Now you know why those warlords and saints look so old, don't you? It's because the later stages of cultivation require a lot of time to accumulate the basic energy." Ding Meng was speechless. Xiao AI said, "If you have the help of divine light technology, 3 years can be shortened." Ding Meng had already used up all the energy in the divine light warehouse. The warehouse's energy was absorbed by the droplet to resist the impact of the wormhole. If it were not for the divine light energy, the SS expedition would have been reduced to ashes. Therefore, some things would always be yours if they belonged to you. If they did not belong to you, they would not fall into your hands no matter what. But you don't have to be discouraged. Xiao AI's tone changed again. You can use your telekinesis anti-gravity force field to achieve the effect of slowing down time. It consumes a lot of energy, but it's undoubtedly the most suitable for the current environment. If the SS expedition only has 2 years of lifespan, you have 6 years. Another 6 years. Ding Meng's tone became thoughtful. Xiao AI was puzzled. "What's wrong?" Ding Meng sighed. "It's been exactly 6 years since I came to the Saint Brilliant Star System." Xiao AI suddenly remembered that in the map of the last round of the Starlight examination, Ding Meng was able to identify the terrain of the devouring world at a glance. Xiao AI could not help but ask, "Ding Meng, have you been to the devouring world before?" Ding Meng sighed even more heavily. "Yes, I spent 4 whole years. Starting from the rear of the devouring world, I passed through the Zyrtl star system, Bogus star system, Paradise star system, the refugee camp on Bramble star system, and finally arrived at the Black Gold base. It's been 6 years since then." Xiao AI was silent. Finally, she asked the question that she had been curious about for a long time. "Ding Meng, you're not a human from the Saint Brilliant Star System, are you?" Ding Meng nodded. "Yes, I'm from an extraterrestrial civilization." Xiao AI asked, "Were you teleported to the devouring world?" Ding Meng said, "I don't know if I was teleported or not. When I woke up, I was already in the devouring world." His answer confused Xiao AI. Xiao AI decided to change her words. "All right, little rascal, and I have always been curious. We've analyzed Ding Meng before. You didn't come to the Saint Brilliant Star System by chance. You must have come with a purpose, or rather, you came to this star system with a mission." Ding Meng said, "According to the Holy Grail Federation, my hometown should be called the Da Shang civilization. Its technological level is far inferior to the Federal Empires, but the way of refining origin energy is completely different from the Federal Empires. The way of life there is also very different." Xiao AI listened in silence. Ding Meng said, 10 years ago, in order to protect me, Mr. Yu met with misfortune at the foot of the Celestial Heavens Gate Mountain. After that, Madame Yu escorted me all the way to the extraterrestrial Devil Nation. Madame Yu was naturally Long Yao. Although Yu Xingyang had already passed away and the two of them were not truly married. Their feelings for each other were extremely deep. After Yu Xingyang left, Long Yao referred to herself as Madame Yu. Xiao Ai said, "If I remember correctly, Mr. Yu seemed to have asked Madame Yu to send you back to the extraterrestrial devil nations, you demon villa, and hand you over to his clansmen." Ding Ming frowned. "But we didn't reach the extraterrestrial devil nation." "Oh," Xiao Ai was surprised. "Why? What happened along the way?" Ding Ming said in a deep voice, "After Mr. Yu killed by Ping Hai's family, the news quickly spread to the nobles of the Desheng kingdom. The Tian family and the Bai clan sent out a large number of troops to pursue us. If it wasn't for Madame Yu risking her life to protect me, I would have died along the way. We wouldn't have reached the border of the kingdom at all." Xiao Ai said, "How big is the Desheng civilization's territory?" Ding Ming smiled bitterly. "Naturally, it can't be compared to the Federation, but it's not small either. It's at least 3 times the size of Cypress Grove." Xiao Ai was shocked. Cypress Grove is much bigger than ordinary planets. Since the Desheng civilization's planet is 3 times the size of Cypress Grove, its gravity is also different from ordinary planets. It's conceivable that the humans born on that planet have very strong physiques, far stronger than the humans of the Federal Empire. No wonder Ding Ming's physique has always been strong. So that's why you and Madame Yu escaped to the border, and you must have suffered a lot along the way." Ding Ming sighed. "Yes, when Big Sister, when he passed the hero's knife to me and Big Brother Zheng Ming, she said that if we were to encounter any difficulties one day, we must go to the border's main city to find her." Xiao Ai pondered and said, "With the situation at that time and Madame Yu's skills, wouldn't she have been able to deal with the pursuers?" Ding Ming shook his head. "Although Madame Yu is an expert in the knife field of Celestial Heaven's Gate, she still can't be compared to Mr. Yu. After all, Mr. Yu has made a name for himself for many years." Although his words were tactful, Xiao Ai could understand the meaning behind them. Yu Xingyang's strength was not only cultivated, but also gained from killing powerful enemies one by one. How rich was his combat experience? Meanwhile, Long Yao's strength was only on paper. Yes, Celestial Heaven's Gate was indeed very strong, but no matter how strong it was still holed up in the mountains. People like Long Yao had only gone down the mountains a few times in her life. How could her experience compare to Yu Xingyang's? No matter how strong you were, you couldn't beat those insidious and cunning people. Unless you were like the water droplet, where no one could kill you, then you were invincible. Ding Ming's eyes flashed, as if he was reminiscing about the past. At that time, I still wasn't an origin ability user. Not only was it difficult for me to move, but I was also listed as a wanted criminal in the kingdom. We didn't dare to enter the villages and towns along the way, and could only survive in the wilderness. In order to take care of me, Madame Yu had no choice but to slow down." Xiao Ai understood. There was probably a steady stream of pursuers behind us, and there was no lack of experts among them. Madame Yu was also having a hard time dealing with them. Ding Ming said, "When we arrived at the main city at the border, Madame Yu was seriously injured and urgently needed treatment to recover." Xiao Ai said, "Fortunately, you guys still managed to arrive without a hitch." Ding Ming frowned. "But when we arrived, the main city at the border had already been scorched." Xiao Ai asked, "What happened?" Ding Ming sighed. "When the first generation's eldest brother's wife, the princess, was being hunted down, she fled from the main city at the border to where her friend was at, the Songming Empire. When we arrived, the Songming Empire had already become an enemy country and crossed the border to fight with the Desheng Kingdom. The main city at the border, along with the villages, had been razed to the ground. The Desheng Kingdom was bound to send reinforcements to the front lines. A great war was coming." Xiao Ai's tone was filled with emotion. No matter what level of civilization or race one was in the universe, war meant the arrival of troubled times. It was easy to produce heroes in troubled times, but human lives in troubled times were like ants that could be trampled upon by others. They were even more insignificant than plants and trees. Ding Ming also looked out the window. It was still dark outside, so there was no light in his eyes. Chapter 380. Dark night, forest fog. Within the thick fog, a figure slowly walked out from the forest. She wasn't tall, and her figure was on the thin side. She wore simple villager clothing, but in the dark night, the girl's eyes were like two shining stars. They were extremely moving. Ding Meng had already walked up to greet her. Big sister one, huh? Ding Wen's expression was also somewhat excited. Brother Ding Meng, you've finally come. I haven't seen you in a long time. Ding Meng sighed. It's been 3 years. Ding Wenhe looked around. Why don't I see Brother Zheng Ming? Didn't he come with you? Ding Meng's sigh became even heavier. Brother Zheng Ming died a year ago. Ding Wenhe was immediately stunned. How is that possible? Ding Meng couldn't help but recount everything that had happened along the way. Only then did Ding Wenhe's gaze fall upon Long Yao, who was sitting cross-legged under a tree. Mr. Yu and his wife are righteous. Wenhe greatly admires you. Long Yao opened her eyes. Miss Wenhe is too polite. The Great Wei dynasty is currently at war with the Dark Firmament Empire, and the border has already been completely sealed off. There is no way to return to the Devil Nation. By bringing Ding Meng here and handing him over to you, my mission can be considered complete. Please take care of yourselves. She stood up and looked like she was about to leave. Ding Wenhe immediately went up to support her. Madam Yu, please wait. Your injuries aren't light. Please come to my place to recover first. The fog at the end of the forest was even thicker, but there was a truly towering tree growing within the fog. If one could describe it, this super tree scale wasn't inferior to that of a mid-tier starship. It was several hundred meters tall, and all kinds of branches and leaves were intertwined. It was connected with countless strange flowers and plants, and its entire body was suffused with an emerald green color. From a distance, it looked like a green mountain. In the Great Wei dynasty, this kind of tree was called the Holy Tree. The sacred tree was the foundation of the Great Wei dynasty. This kind of tree contained a huge amount of energy, nourishing the nearby land, regulating the air, soil, climate, and environment. Origin ability users could also absorb origin energy from the aura emitted by the tree. Thus, the sacred tree was a truly supreme existence within the kingdom. In normal times, the holy tree was almost always worshipped, but in times of war, the holy tree was usually a shelter. No matter how fierce the battle between the enemy and their side was, it would rarely affect the holy tree. If anyone touched the holy tree, it would be regarded as a great taboo and would not be tolerated by the heavens. Before dawn, the huge open space under the sacred tree was packed with people. These were all refugees. The chaos of war, plague, famine, and injuries had caused most of them to be on the verge of death. Ding Wenhe explained. This is the only shelter left in the main city at the border. Long Yao exclaimed in shock. Did the Firmament Empire's army destroy the other holy trees? Ding Wenhe nodded with a heavy expression. Long Yao was even more shocked. In my impression, the Firmament Empire has always been friendly and peaceful. How could they destroy even the holy tree? Are they not afraid of suffering the wrath of the heavens? Ding Wenhe said, it's different this time. 2 years ago, the emperor of the Dark Firmament Empire passed away, and the successor emperor invited a prophet from somewhere. This prophet went on a campaign everywhere, and his goal was the sacred tree. The extraterritorial Devil Nation and Immortal Travel Nation were invaded, and many sacred trees were destroyed. And this time, they targeted our grand, flourishing kingdom, and their goal was also the sacred tree. Ding Meng was also puzzled. Could it be that they don't know that once the holy tree is destroyed, the surrounding land will rot? Ding Wen has said, it's impossible that they don't know this. Ding Meng and Long Yao both felt that this was inconceivable. With the border in such a state, our kingdom can't be indifferent, right? Long Yao was a bit worried. Ding Wen has said, the emperor has already sent reinforcements here, and the leader is our kingdom's great general Tianqing. Hearing the name Tianqing, Ding Meng and Long Yao's hearts immediately became gloomy. Once Tianqing arrived at the border, it would definitely not be a good thing for Ding Ming. Ding Wenhe seemed to know what they were thinking and took the initiative to wave his hand. Ding Ming, come with me. Big Brother is waiting for you. The holy tree's central trunk was like a starship. It was divided into many regions and countless spaces, and the passages were also connected in all directions. In a small and simple room, a colorful energy ball was floating in the air. A man and a woman were standing next to the energy ball, and they seemed to be carefully observing its changes. The man was tall and had an extraordinary bearing. Although his face seemed to have experienced the vicissitudes of life, one could still vaguely see the bravery and handsomeness of his youth. The woman was obviously younger than the man, but she was beautiful and had a graceful bearing. It was obvious that she was not an ordinary person. These two were the first owner of the hero's dagger, Big Brother, and his wife, the princess. Ding Ming hurried forward and bowed his head respectfully. Big Brother. Big Brother turned his head to look at him, and there was a gentle smile in his eyes. Brother Ding. Ding Ming immediately took out the dagger that he always carried with him. Big Brother took the hero's dagger and looked it over and over again, and said with a sigh, From Huzi to Wenhe, and then to you, and Zheng Ming, I didn't expect this dagger to have gone through 15 generations. Everyone has sacrificed so much for it. Ding Ming said, Mister, you can also be considered as its successor. Big Brother looked a little emotional, and he murmured, You Xingyang, I really didn't expect you to be such an indomitable man. Look at the heroes of the world today. If you're not the #1 dagger, then who is worthy? Long Yao hurriedly bowed her head and thanked him. Thank you for your praise, Big Brother. Big Brother then returned the dagger to Ding Ming and said seriously, Brother Ding, actually, even if you didn't send a signal to Wenhe, Madam already knew that 2 descendants would arrive here tonight. Oh, Ding Ming and Long Yao were shocked again. The princess then took 2 steps forward and said softly, To be honest, I am also a prophet, and I know a little about the art of divination. For the Desheng civilization, prophets were very powerful. They did not have any martial arts, but they could predict the past and the future. If it was in the Holy Splendor civilization, prophets were equivalent to high-level data masters. Data masters could use all kinds of equipment, techniques, methods, data, and patterns to calculate, simulate, and analyze, and from there, come up with probabilities and results. But in the Desheng civilization, prophets could directly come into contact with the holy tree and use the power of the holy tree to do all this. Sure enough, the princess gently touched the surface of the colorful energy ball, and the air immediately rippled, forming a circular mirror. From a mirror, they could see Ding Ming and Long Yao moving through the wilderness under the night sky. Long Yao was waving Ling Xian's dagger to fend off the kingdom's soldiers who were rushing over from behind. Geographically, the two should be at the outskirts of the border city. Big Brother said respectfully, It is said that the celestial Ling sect's dagger technique is unparalleled. Seeing it today, it really lives up to its name. Long Yao lowered her head. I wouldn't dare. The princess gently swiped her hand across the mirror, and the image on the mirror changed again. On the vast plains, a mighty army of the kingdom was marching towards the border. On the other side of the border, there was also a tide-like army. However, if one looked closely, they would discover that the Dark Firmament Kingdom's army was mixed with many monsters. The only thing the two sides had in common was that they were extremely terrifying in numbers. They had completely submerged the ground below them. If an army of this scale were to fight, it would bring about an apocalyptic catastrophe. The princess waved her hand again, and the mirror disappeared. Ding Wenhe said gloomily, Big Brother, are we going to lose this holy tree? Big Brother sighed. Yes, this place is surrounded from all sides, and the civilization estimates that it will be razed to the ground by the day after tomorrow at the latest. Ding Wenhe said, Then what do we do with so many refugees? Do we just leave them alone? The princess suddenly paced slowly in the room, and after a long time, she looked up and sighed. When I was young, I heard my father talk about the holy tree. Everyone listened quietly. The holy tree originally did not belong to our world, and it is said that the gods could not bear to see the common people suffer, so they planted the holy seed and finally grew into the holy tree to protect the people of the land. The princess explained unhurriedly, every 60 to 70 years, the holy tree will foretell peace or disaster. Foretell? Everyone felt very curious. The princess nodded and said, "That's right, to be precise, the holy tree represents the will of the gods. Whoever it chooses will be the key clue to this peace or disaster, and is also the chosen one." So the armies of the two kingdoms rushing here, and Brother Ding, and you two appearing here, this is not a coincidence, it is predestined. This saying was very mysterious, but when it came from the princess, everyone had no choice but to believe it. Back then, after you were captured, you met me, and when I released you, I returned the knife to you, and you passed it to Miss Wenhe, and then Wenhe passed it to Ding Ming. During this time, it defeated Yu Xingyang in a martial arts conference, and the one Yu Xingyang defeated was Tianqing, and Ding Ming died at the hands of Tianqing. So, I firmly believe that this knife is destined to be a cycle of karma among you people, and this knife of destiny has returned to the starting point tonight. It is bound to be reincarnated. Although her words were short, it made everyone feel the mysteries of the world, as if there really was a god in the unseen world. Just as the princess said, "Big brother," the princess, Tianqing, Yu Xingyang, Ding Ming, Ding Wenhe, and Zheng Ming were all directly or indirectly related to this hero's knife. There would always be people living and dying under its knife. This seemed to be an inescapable fate. Big brother hesitated and said, "You mean?" The princess immediately interrupted him, her expression solemn. "Yes, the end is near. It will be very difficult for us to escape." Big brother hesitated for a long time, and his expression became firm. "No matter what, the tens of thousands of people here cannot die. They cannot become sacrifices." The princess suddenly said, "The honored guest has arrived. Maybe this guest can take this group of people away." Big brother was shocked. His perception was very sharp. He immediately sensed that there were people outside. "Let's go out." Chapter 381. In the empty space of the holy tree, the people had already opened up a path for them because there were people coming. It was a group of people with light cavalry, but they looked quite imposing because the crowd suddenly cheered. "We're saved! We're saved! Great General Tian is here. The king must have sent him. Is it really Great General Tian?" The leader of the group was the dignified Tianqing. Other than a few followers behind him, there was also an old man and an exceptionally beautiful woman. When Tianqing walked into the empty space, he kept waving his hand to signal the people to calm down. However, when he saw Big Brother, he was very surprised. "It's you." Big Brother cupped his hands. "Greetings, General Tian. It has been many years since we last met. Have you been well?" When he said this, Tianqing completely ignored Ding Ming behind Big Brother, as if he did not know Ding Ming at all. Big Brother said, "Thanks to the king and the kingdom's protection, I have had a few years of peace." Tianqing sighed. "It's a pity that the peaceful days are about to end." When he said this, Ding Ming and Long Yao immediately became nervous. Big Brother's expression did not change. "General Tian is referring to the Dark Firmament Empire's army?" Tianqing sighed. "I have been entrusted by the king to lead the army to defend the holy tree and the holy tree." Big Brother said, "General has been fighting for many years and has given your all for the kingdom. I believe you have confidence in winning this time." Tianqing's expression was serious. "That might not be the case. The Devil Nation and the Immortal Travel Nation are in a state of emergency. This war situation is urgent and not optimistic." The two of them seemed to be discussing the war situation, but Ding Ming had a strange feeling that Tianqing's intentions were not as simple as it seemed. Especially the beautiful and cold woman behind Tianqing. Her attire was very similar to Long Yao's. Could she be from the Celestial Heaven's Gate? Just as he thought this, the beautiful woman spoke. "Senior sister, you are here." Long Yao was also surprised. Junior sister Bai Ro, why are you here? Bai Ro said coldly, Senior sister, I'm under the order of the sect master to invite you back to the immortal sect. Long Yao frowned and said, When I left the mountain, master did not instruct me to do so. All of a sudden, Bai Ro took out a sparkling immortal seal from her wide sleeve. This is the immortal seal of the immortal sect. It's like my master is here. How could I lie? Long Yao didn't say anything. Ding Ming also reacted. The celestial heaven's gate didn't care about worldly affairs. However, Bai Ro and Tianqing were traveling together. This was something worth thinking about. Moreover, a sect wouldn't take out the celestial seal casually. Did something happen to the celestial heaven's gate? The old man beside Tianqing suddenly walked over with a warm smile on his face. Greetings, everyone. I am Jiaogu. Big Brother immediately saluted. So it's Mr. Jiao. My apologies. Jiaogu always had a smile on his face. Actually, when a war starts, and the war starts, logically speaking, I'm not qualified to come to the front line. However, Your Excellency has peerless skills. Now that the enemy is pressuring the border, I came here in hopes that Your Excellency can fight side by side with General Tian and expel the enemy. Big Brother nodded, but his expression didn't change. Mr. Jiao is too polite. Protecting the country has been my creed since I joined the army. If General Tian wants to resist the enemy, I will serve him. Jiaogu then said seriously, I admire Your Excellency's righteousness. However, Your Excellency, do you know why the Songming Empire suddenly rose again? Big Brother cupped his hands and said, Please enlighten me, Mr. Jiao. Jiaogu sighed. They didn't come to destroy the holy tree. Their target is the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit was the five-colored energy body that Ding Meng saw at the center of the tree trunk. Everything in the border city depended on the Holy Spirit. Once the Holy Spirit was taken away, the holy tree would wither, the land would rot, the rivers would dry up, and the climate would deteriorate. Naturally, it would be difficult for humans to survive. Big Brother frowned. What do you mean, Mr. Jiao? Jiaogu sighed even harder. Our Qing Empire's army will arrive here tomorrow. It is estimated that there will be an unprecedented bloody battle here by the night of the day after tomorrow. When the time comes, there will be corpses everywhere and countless people will die. This was also true. There was no war that didn't have deaths. Sometimes, the battlefield was synonymous with the graveyard. Big Brother said in a deep voice, Mr. Jiao, you seem to have other ideas? Jiaogu sighed. Instead of wasting people's lives, why don't we move the Holy Spirit to the rear of our Shang Empire? This way, we can reduce the number of casualties. What do Your Excellency think? At this moment, Ding Meng and the others all understood. Tianqing and the others were also here for the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit's function was extremely broad and powerful. Logically speaking, it was a matter of course for the kingdom's general to come and take it away. However, due to Zheng Ming and Yu Xingyang's deaths, Ding Meng and the others became wary. Big Brother's expression became absent-minded. However, if one looked closely at his eyes, one would realize that he had already expected this day to come. Big Brother was different from Yu Xingyang. Yu Xingyang was too straightforward and did not know that he would break easily. Big Brother, on the other hand, was very calm. I admire Mr. Jiao for cherishing the soldiers and the people. However, as you can see, there are tens of thousands of refugees and countless injured people here. They are all being treated by the Holy Tree. If General Tian takes the Holy Spirit, these people won't have much time left. Tianqing smiled. It's fine. The Vanguard rescue team will arrive soon. The priority will be to move the kingdom's citizens to the rear for treatment and to settle them down properly. This place is more conducive to fighting against the Songming army. This was because he had made sufficient preparations beforehand. He knew how you would answer, so he had a plan to deal with it. Big Brother smiled as well. You are indeed a general of the kingdom. You are very thoughtful. Since that is the case, General Tian, please take a rest here. When the vanguard arrives, I will move the Holy Spirit to the back of the army." As he spoke, he turned around and gave the princess a look. "Go and take the Holy Spirit out." The princess understood and immediately called for Ding Meng and the others to follow behind. Jiao Gu said, "Forgive me for not recognizing you, but I seem to have seen this little brother somewhere before." Bai Rou suddenly sneered. "His surname is Ding Meng. He is a wanted criminal of the kingdom." Long Yao also sneered. "Junior sister, do you know which law of the kingdom he violated?" Jiao Gu muttered. "Brother Bai Pinghai seemed to have died because of him." Tianqing suddenly waved his hand. "Brother Bai died at the hands of brother Yu Xingyang, not this little brother. If I'm not wrong, this little brother Ding is just an ordinary person. He doesn't have the ability to fight against origin ability users. Now that we are facing a great enemy, please put aside your personal grudges for now and work together to overcome this difficult situation." It would have been better if he had not spoken. However, the moment he spoke, Ding Meng and the others felt even more nervous and afraid. Long Yao was about to follow behind the princess when Bai Rou spoke again. "Senior sister, since Ding Meng is a wanted criminal of the kingdom, I advise you to come over." Long Yao's eyes flashed coldly. "Junior sister, I don't understand what you mean." Bai Rou coldly said, "My celestial gate has a good reputation. If you stay with a wanted criminal, I'm afraid it will damage the reputation of the celestial gate. Master has ordered me to bring you back. I advise you to turn back now." Long Yao's tone became even colder. "What if I don't?" A cold aura immediately spread out from Bai Rou's body. "Then don't blame me for being rude to my fellow sisters." Long Yao's hand was already on the hilt of the saber on her belt. "Do you think you have the qualifications to be rude in front of me?" Seeing that the two sides were about to fight, the eldest brother decisively said, "Miss Bai Rou, Miss Long will naturally return to your celestial heaven's gate. Under the holy tree, please calm down." If Yin Yuan could say that, let alone a young girl like Bai Rou, even Tianqing, who had been through hundreds of battles, was frightened. This aura was not only heavy, but also had an undeniable aura. His competence was immeasurably deep. If they fought, it wouldn't bring any benefits to either of them. While the two sides were in a stalemate, the princess, Ding Meng, and Ding Wenhe returned to the small room where the Holy Spirit was. "Wenhe, please wait outside," the princess suddenly said. Ding Wenhe nodded. "Princess, don't worry. I won't let anyone come close." The princess then walked to the front of the Holy Spirit and said faintly, "Brother Ding Meng, I need you to understand one thing." Ding Meng immediately clasped his hands. "Princess, please tell me." The princess sighed. "My eldest brother has been in the military for his whole life. He is very stubborn. As long as he can do it, he won't let any innocent people die." Ding Meng contemplated and said, "I understand. My eldest brother is the first owner of the heroic knife. When we hold this knife, we can understand his character." The princess continued, "So, when the army of the kingdom arrives, tens of thousands of civilians will have to leave this place. My eldest brother will definitely join the army of the kingdom to resist the army of the Dark Firmament Nation." What she meant was that in the current situation, his eldest brother didn't have time to care about other things. Long Yao was restrained by Bai Rou, and Ding Meng's situation was even worse. The princess said, "Ding Meng, you and Zheng Ming are good kids. Everything you have done is worthy of what our brothers have entrusted you with. Brother Zheng Ming has met with misfortune. My eldest brother has repeatedly told me not to let you fall into the hands of Tianqing. Now, there are internal and external troubles. The flames of war are everywhere. There is no place for you in the 5 great nations." Ding Meng immediately straightened his chest and took a deep breath. "Princess, I'm not afraid of death. If I make things difficult for you, I only hope that after I die, you can seek justice for Brother Zheng Ming and Miss Qiao. You can also erect a merit monument for Mr. Yu." The princess smiled. "Silly child, don't talk about death so easily. Remember, no matter when and where, you must strive to survive. I brought you here because I have an important task for you." Ding Meng lowered his head and said, "As you wish." The princess said, At this time and place, only you and one he are the most suitable candidates. Although when he is older than you, he doesn't have as much experience as you. I've thought about it for a long time and decided to let you go. This trip is very risky. It's unprecedented. You must be mentally prepared. Chapter 382. The princess stared at the spinning Holy Spirit and said slowly, "You heard what Tianqing and the others said just now. They are obviously here for the Holy Spirit." Ding Ming said, "I once heard Big Brother Zhengming mention that the holy tree protects the people of the world precisely because of the miraculous effects of the Holy Spirit. It is said that if someone can devour the Holy Spirit, they will definitely be able to attain immortality." The princess nodded. Although the rumors may not be credible, there is always some truth in them. As for whether they can achieve immortality, I am not sure. However, there is one thing I know. The Holy Spirit is not actually called that. Oh, Ding Ming was surprised. The princess said seriously, "Its real name is the Source of Holy Light. This name has been passed down from generation to generation. There is no mistaking it. The Source of Holy Light, the Source of Holy Light." Ding Ming muttered. The princess nodded. The Holy Spirit has another use that no one knows. It can lead to a new world. A new world? Ding Ming was shocked. The princess said, "Yes. As for what kind of world this new world is, no one knows." Then no one knows. One of my ancestors once went to that world through the Holy Spirit and came back 6 years later. Unfortunately, my ancestor was unfortunately plotted against. We still know nothing about the new world, but one thing is certain: the new world is definitely not the world of the undead, because after all, my ancestor came back. Ding Ming said, "Princess, you said that the Holy Spirit does not belong to this world. Then the new world my ancestor went to is probably the world of the Holy Spirit?" The princess said, "I guess so too. Currently, an unprecedented catastrophe is about to begin among the 5 great kingdoms. All signs indicate that this world is about to descend into hellish chaos. The Holy Spirit also told me that the Chosen One is about to appear. Ding Ming, come here. Let the Holy Spirit see if my prediction is correct." Following her gesture, Ding Ming stood obediently in front of the Holy Spirit. The princess mumbled something and pressed the Holy Spirit with one hand. The 5-colored energy body quickly emitted countless sparkles. These sparkles were like white seeds gathering around Ding Ming. However, Ding Ming didn't feel anything. As the princess's hand gesture suddenly changed, the countless seeds suddenly converged into a single point and instantly sank into Ding Ming's face. Ding Ming was shocked to find that a white dot had appeared in his field of vision. The white dot flickered and then disappeared. The princess heaved a sigh of relief. "Very good, I was right. Ding Ming, you are the chosen one this time. You are not an origin ability user, so this white that can help you avoid pain during the journey to the new world. Now, are you ready?" Ding Ming asked. "Princess, you want me to go to the new world now?" The princess nodded and said, "There is not much time left. If I don't send you away now, not only will you not be able to leave, but the Holy Spirit will also fall into the enemy's hands." Ding Ming said, "Then I will leave immediately." The princess said, "Before I leave, I only have one request. If you can really enter the new world, and it is the world of the Source of Holy Splendor, I hope that you can master the power of the Source of Holy Splendor and return to the Grand Flourishing Kingdom in 6 years to resolve the disaster of our world." Ding Ming immediately felt the pressure on his shoulders. He immediately said, "I will do my best. Go in." The princess pointed at the Holy Spirit. Ding Ming then realized that the 5-color energy body had suddenly expanded at some point. It was like a pupil of light that filled the entire room. Walking into this world of light, Ding Ming felt his entire body warm up, as if he was surrounded by warm water. There was an indescribable sense of pleasure. This comfort gradually made Ding Ming, who was constantly on guard and exhausted from running for his life, feel sleepy. Gradually, he felt his eyelids become heavier and heavier, and the drowsiness became stronger and stronger. It was as if there really was a god, causing him to slowly relax and finally fall asleep. When I woke up, I found that I was no longer in the holy tree. Ding Meng sighed and said, I found that I was really in a new world. There were deserts and swamps everywhere, and it was an unpleasant smell. Xiao AI also sighed and said, You were teleported from the grand flourishing kingdom to the devourer kingdom by the Holy Spirit. Ding Meng seemed to be trying hard to remember. It should be the border of the devourer kingdom because I met people of the same kind. After asking around, I learned about the existence of the Norse Empire and the Holy Grail Federation. Xiao AI immediately understood what had happened. When he heard the words Holy Grail Federation, Ding Meng would definitely associate it with the source of holy light that the princess mentioned. Therefore, Ding Meng began his arduous journey of wandering. Back when Lan Bing and the others were studying Ding Meng, they found that Ding Meng started from the Zirital star system and ended up on the Dead Silent planet. The reason why his movement pattern was similar to that of an ascetic monk was because Ding Meng was an ordinary person and a galactic refugee. Every step he took was extremely difficult. In order to get as close to the Holy Grail Federation as possible, Ding Meng was even sold to the refugee camp as a slave by the black market merchants so that he could get closer to the Federation. To ordinary people, this was simply unimaginable. However, to Ding Meng, for the sake of his elder brother, the princess, and the others, he shouldered a great mission. He could endure these hardships, and he didn't care. He always had a firm belief. As long as he could survive, he would definitely reach the Federation one day. Lan Bing and the others could not find out Ding Meng's origin no matter how hard they tried. They would never have thought that Ding Meng actually came from an extraterrestrial civilization. Who knew that by chance, Ding Meng would be imprisoned in the Black Gold base, meet Little Rascal, and successfully fuse with the cave virus. Xiao AI sighed. Now I finally know where your unique point of convergence came from. It was given to you by the sacred spirit. I didn't expect a spirit like Little Rascal to be able to attach to it. Most importantly, with your current strength, even I can't analyze its composition. The princess' judgment was not wrong. The sacred spirit must be a product of a higher civilization than Deshon. Ding Meng let out a long sigh. It's already been 6 years, but I can't go back. Xiao AI knew what he meant. Not to mention that they were now in an unknown territory. Even if they were in the Holy Grail Federation, Ding Meng still could not go back. The reason was simple. Where was the Shang civilization? Where was it? What were its coordinates? Where was Xinghai's specific location? All of this could be described with one word: total confusion. Xiao AI said, It's almost impossible for you to go back to the Shang civilization now. Why don't you take advantage of this time to train hard? No matter where you go in the future, strength is the guarantee of everything. Ding Meng naturally understood this. Not to mention the Shang civilization. Even if he wanted to go back to the Holy Grail Federation, he had to be strong enough. For now, it was better for him to train as he sailed. Interstellar travel in an unknown territory was undoubtedly long and boring. In order to save as much energy as possible, Fujinjun and Shui Mountain both adjusted the energy consumption of their artificial bodies to the lowest. The two of them took turns to observe the radar once every 15 days. If there were no new discoveries, the two of them would enter hibernation mode. Of course, every time they observed the radar, they would be filled with anticipation. Then, they would enter hibernation mode in disappointment. Ding Meng sat cross-legged in the command center, meditating. He would only summon Fujinjun and Shui Mountain when he sensed a change in the density of origin energy. The interstellar map on the virtual screen was still dark. Shui Mountain sighed helplessly. How many days has it been since Ding Meng revealed the location to me? He did not like to calculate data, but Fujinjun had this habit. The last time was 67 days ago. Fujinjun also sighed. In the blink of an eye, 574 days have passed. We really don't have much time left. Shui Mountain's electronic eyes flashed, seemingly silent. The original plan was to wait for 2 years. If they could not find a way out by then, the silver core stone energy on the expedition starship would be exhausted. At that time, they would really be floating in the depths of the universe like trash. Now that more than half the time had passed, it would be a lie to say that they did not feel the slightest bit of panic. Especially after the battle with the water droplet, the feeling of surviving a disaster. When you were about to die, you might not be afraid of death, but when you were alive and well, you would be very afraid of death. Fujin Jun looked at Ding Ming, who was meditating with his eyes closed and could not help but sigh. I envy him. Shuiyu Mountain joked. Haven't you always been unconvinced by anyone? Fujin Jun sighed even more heavily. I'm convinced by him. Don't you feel it? This guy's aura is really changing too quickly. In fact, as a spirit body, its perception was far inferior to that of an origin ability user. It relied on the simple detection system installed on the artificial body. Even so, Fujin Jun and Shuiyu Mountain could feel the constantly changing and strengthening aura on Ding Meng's body. If this change could be described, it would be that Ding Meng's aura was first a trickle, then it suddenly expanded into a monstrous wave, and then it became a trickle again. It seemed to have returned to its original state, but in fact, the fluctuations emitted by this trickle were in a state where it would appear and disappear occasionally. Fujin Jun was originally an origin ability expert, so he was naturally very clear about this change. That is, while Ding Meng was constantly absorbing energy, he was also constantly tempering himself. In the end, he was still building his foundation, training his own basic skills to reach the peak of perfection. To put it bluntly, even if Ding Meng was at the level of a combat master, as long as he restrained his aura and stopped using his energy, even a warlord might not be able to discover that he was a guy who was hiding his strength. It was hard for Fujin Jun not to admire Ding Meng. With Ding Meng's age and level, he could definitely train at a rapid pace. However, he chose to use this seemingly clumsy method. This was exactly what the origin ability user community had been saying. Don't look at those geniuses who seem to be insufferably arrogant. You don't know what kind of hard work they put in behind their backs. Nowadays, young people like Ding Meng who were willing to focus on building their foundation were really rare. However, thinking of this, Shuiyu Mountain felt a bit regretful. Sigh, Ding Meng, this guy, originally had a limitless future. It's a pity that he's trapped here. We've implicated him. Fujin Jun took the initiative to turn off the energy source. Forget it. Don't think about it anymore. Thinking too much will only give you a headache. Let's enter hibernation mode and wait for the next round. Chapter 383. What Makoto Fuma didn't know was that Ding Meng's current cultivation focus wasn't origin energy, because according to Xiao AI's calculations, there wasn't enough energy for him to construct the 9th point. In Makoto Fuma's mind, Ding Meng had practically been sitting on the ground for 2 years, but in Ding Meng's world, 5 years had already passed since he was using origin energy to support the anti-gravity force field. During this period of time, what he had truly made great progress in was his general telekinesis, because Ding Meng had discovered that the pearl imprint Little Rascal had left behind had many wonderful uses. In the past, he had been able to cultivate telekinesis dots, but now, through the imprint, he could release telekinesis in the form of strings. Not only could these telekinesis strings extend and contract at will, but they could also pass through the starship, attaching themselves to the wave-particle duality strings in the universe to achieve the effect of conducting telekinesis. To put it bluntly, Ding Meng had already grasped the method to infect telekinesis, and he could also clearly see all sorts of strings in the universe. This was undoubtedly an even longer process. When the time approached 700 days, Makoto Fuma and Shuiyu Mountain woke up from their hibernation mode. The command center was still bright, and the main control panel was still working. The quantum radar was still operating, but the vertical screen was still black. Makoto Fuma said helplessly, "What do we do?" Shuiyu Mountain shrugged. "You didn't ask the right person." Makoto Fuma said, "I feel like dying might be a good thing." Living like this is actually painful. Shuyu Mountain couldn't help but laugh. If this was in the past, I would have thought that someone who said something like this was crazy. Makoto Fuma also laughed. I'd rather be crazy myself. Being crazy is good. It'll be carefree. Shuyu Mountain laughed. Unfortunately, you can't go crazy even if you want to. Makoto Fuma laughed. Don't worry. If this continues, I might go crazy. Although the two of them were laughing, their voices sounded like they were crying. This was because the starship's energy source was about to run out, but the artificial body's energy source was still enough to last for 20 to 30 years. However, after spending 20 to 30 years in the dark space, no matter how normal a person was, they would still go crazy. Have you turned off the energy source? Ding Ming had already exited his meditation state at some point and was standing next to the main control panel. Did you discover something new? Makoto Fuma was surprised. Ding Ming shook his head and pointed at the light screen. Same old. Even my quantum probe couldn't find anything. What can I find? Fujin Jun was greatly disappointed. You look good. Ding Ming also laughed. Do you think I'm crazy too? Makoto Fuma laughed. To be honest, you do look like a madman right now. 2 years ago, Ding Ming basically didn't care about his image, but now, Ding Ming didn't care about his image at all. His clothes and accessories, except for those that covered his private parts, were all naked. His skin was covered in all kinds of dirt that had already formed scabs. His face was full of whiskers, and his hair was dirty and long. He looked like a savage. Ding Ming said, "Let's save some energy. We'll just continue drifting at this speed. It looks like there's no way out, even if we run out of energy. I just checked the radar, and there's still nothing new. It's better to save some energy, just in case." Makoto Fuma thought about it, and felt that it made sense. The starship had turned off its energy source, so it wouldn't affect the three of them anyway. The command center quickly fell into darkness. Makoto Fuma and Shuyu Mountain continued to hibernate, while Ding Ming continued to meditate and cultivate. Xiao AI was also silently counting the time. Perhaps for Makoto Fuma and Shuyu Mountain, the days on the starship felt like years, but Ding Ming's world wasn't boring at all. He had more or less finished constructing the 9th Point's enormous map of the universe over the past few years. Ding Ming's speed of progress once again overturned Xiao AI's understanding of him. This guy's telekinesis and memory were too powerful. Xiao didn't know what kind of power drove him to work so hard to construct the origin. How much time has passed? Ding Ming suddenly asked in the darkness. Xiao AI sighed. You've spent a total of 3,470 days, which should be 1,158 days in the real world. 3 years have passed, but in reality, you've been cultivating for close to 10 years. 10 years. Ding Ming was a little confused. This 9th point is too tiring. Xiao AI said calmly. You're not bad. Ding Ming had a look of realization. Xiao AI naturally understood him. Are you thinking about Little Rascal? Ding Ming nodded. A little. Xiao AI said, Don't you miss Dai Yi, Lan Bing, and the others at all? Ding Ming said, Do you know what's different about Little Rascal? Xiao AI said, What's different? Ding Ming said, She talks a lot, which keeps me from getting bored. Xiao AI said, It seems like you think I talk too little? Ding Ming said, You haven't talked as much in the past few years as you did just now. That's different. Xiao AI was still very cold. She's a spirit. After all, while I'm a genuine AI program. Ding Ming said, Xiao AI, have you ever thought that maybe you're also a spirit? Xiao AI said, Why do you say that? Ding Ming said, I remember the second time I went to Black Gold Base's underground worship. You were sealed inside the energy carrier of the K-virus. Xiao AI said, Fujin Jun is right. You guys have been trapped on this starship for too long. You've all become stupid. Ding Ming sighed and said, Maybe. I still can't get used to not having Little Rascal around. Xiao AI sighed. It's true that you're nostalgic. At the mention of Little Rascal, the two of them did not seem to be in a good mood. Little Rascal's departure felt like it was just yesterday. The past was still vivid in their minds, but several years had passed since then. It was also at this moment that the main control console suddenly activated on its own. A screen quickly appeared, flashing with a red light. What's going on? Ding Meng and the others were startled awake at the same time. It's a warning signal, Fujin Jun exclaimed. Someone has locked onto us. Ding Meng and Shuiyu Mountain immediately tensed up. In the depths of the vast universe, a signal meant that there was energy, and a lock meant that a flying unit had appeared in the vicinity. Sure enough, the screen had already tracked the source of the signal. In the depths of the darkness, a brown starship that looked like a cylindrical boiler appeared on the screen. This boiler starship was similar to the Federation's carrier starships. It was surrounded by huge thrusters that formed 3 large rings around the hull of the starship. There were as many as 20 ion thrusters that were spewing out blue crystal flames as they flew. Fujin Jun could only feel his heart pounding. After flying in the darkness for so long, could they finally be saved today? Just as his hand reached for the main control console, Ding Meng coldly stopped him. Don't activate the main system. Fujin Jun was puzzled. Why? Ding Meng said in a low voice. Since the other party has already discovered us, if you activate it now, they might immediately become wary. Fujin Jun was stunned and sighed. Why is it that every time you say something, it always makes sense? Shuiyu Mountain sneered. You've forgotten the lesson of the water droplet. Once you're nervous or agitated, you'll be careless. Fujin Jun was indeed a little anxious. Then what should we do? If we don't send out a distress signal, are we going to wait for death? Ding Meng said. Hurry up and turn off the main control console. Fujin Jun was stunned. This, Ding Meng said, lie down and play dead. I'm sure it will come over. Fujin Jun said. Where did you get that confidence from? Ding Meng said. If it wanted to fire, it would have already done so. Even if it did, SS Expedition wouldn't be able to withstand it. You're right. Fujin Jun also understood. With SS Expedition's battered body, it couldn't even withstand a cannon shell. If the other party really opened fire, SS Expedition would already be smashed to pieces. Once the main control console was turned off, the other party's communication signal couldn't be transmitted, and they wouldn't be able to spy on SS Expedition's situation. Sure enough, after about 3 hours, the boiler starship slowly approached SS Expedition. First, it turned off many of its ion drives to maintain the same speed as SS Expedition. Then, it flew at the same level as SS Expedition. At this time, 4 huge steel frames extended out from its flanks and pushed the connecting cabin out. SS Expedition was now in a sealed state. Ding Meng and the other 2 could only hear a rumbling sound. They guessed that the other party was destroying the starship's outer shell and forcing the connecting cabin in. Not long after, Ding Meng had an idea. As long as you can get in, I'll be able to see through you. After waiting patiently for more than half an hour, a large group of fully armed soldiers poured into the command module. Fujin Jun was delighted. These soldiers were indeed human. However, these people didn't look like regular soldiers. They looked more like a group of mercenaries because everyone's armor was different. Moreover, it was tattered and the surface metal had many traces of damage. It was obvious that this group of people had been in combat for a long time. Boss, there's a living person here, someone suddenly said. As soon as he said that, several positioning lasers landed on Ding Meng. The person who spoke yelled, kneel down and put your hands behind your head or we'll shoot immediately. Ding Meng did as he was told and kneeled on the ground obediently. At this time, the group of people spread out. They were very familiar with the starship's operating system and activated SS Expedition's main system in a few seconds. The command module was immediately brightened up. Ding Meng had already noticed them with his telekinetic vision. This group of people all looked disgusting and were armed with various energy weapons. They didn't look like mercenaries, but more like space pirates. However, he didn't care. If he really wanted to fight, he could kill 100 more of these pirates in one breath. Hey, there are 2 artificial bodies here. Looks like they're not dead yet. The person who spoke earlier spoke again. This guy was young. He was quite agile and had good eyesight. As for the guy called Boss, he was probably not very old. He was about 60 or 70 years old. He was very large and had a big head and big ears. After making sure that there was enough air in the starship, he even lit a cigar and put it in his mouth. He was completely comparable to the four-eyed man and the Russians. "What's your name?" The young man walked over and glared at Ding Meng as he asked fiercely. Chapter 384. Ding Meng was definitely not going to answer. The young man suddenly raised his leg and kneed Ding Meng in the chin. At the same time, Ding Meng calculated the strength of this person. Then, Ding Meng took advantage of the momentum and flew up into the sky. Finally, she fell down heavily, and a few tables and chairs made a crashing sound. The young man immediately turned his head and laughed. "Boss, this guy is a loser." The boss narrowed his eyes and smoked with satisfaction. "Not bad. This kid is a living person. He should be able to sell for a good price." Hearing this, Ding Meng felt strange. Were these people human traffickers? Selling people? The young man walked up again and grabbed Ding Meng by the hair. He stared at him fiercely. "Kid, what's your name?" Ding Meng said in a low voice, "Fujin Jin." Fujin Jin almost vomited blood when he heard this. "Is this really a good act? What kind of messy name is this?" the young man cursed. Fujin Jin was also angry. "What do you know? You're obviously uncultured. You can't even appreciate such an elegant name." Scram. At this time, someone found Ding Meng's rainbow satchel. "Boss, look, this guy still has a lot of things." There are a lot of things. There are even guns. "We didn't lose out this time." The boss took it and frowned. "What symbol is this? Does anyone know about the Starbow group?" The answer was a no idea. Everyone shook their heads. Ding Meng's heart sank again. These people did not seem to be from the Holy Grail Federation. They did not even know about the Starbow group. The young man grabbed Ding Meng by the hair. "Kid, let me ask you, what kind of group is the Starbow group? Where did you come from?" Before Ding Meng could answer, Big Boss said lazily, "There's no point in asking him. This ship is already in such a bad state. It's probably been beaten up by other starships. Look at this kid. He's probably been on this ship for many years. How can he survive without this bag?" The young man immediately showed a flattering smile. "Boss is wise. You saw the problem at a glance." Boss looked around. "Did you find anything else?" Someone immediately answered, "No, boss. There's nothing valuable on this ship. There's only a pile of alloy left in the storage room. It's probably used to repair the starship. It looks a little old, so it shouldn't be worth much." Boss waved his hand and said, "Take them all away. Take this brat and the two artificial bodies with us." "Yes," everyone replied in unison. Fuma Zhen and Shui Yueshan looked at each other, thinking that it would be strange if this bunch of hooligans weren't space pirates. However, this was also something that everyone wished for. If they could smoothly touch the other party starship, then they would truly be saved. Ding Meng was pretending to be weak, but if they let him board their starship, then it would be fun. These pirates were really careless. They did not even handcuff Ding Meng with energy chains. Instead, they directly escorted him to the connecting cabin. When they really entered the boiler starship, Ding Meng immediately thought of someone. That person was Liao Zhang from Cyprus Ancient Planets Tianyan. This starship was obviously a transport ship. However, the strange thing was that this transport ship dared to swagger in the depths of the universe. There had to be a reason for this. As for the starship expedition, it was now completely abandoned. It had truly become a ghost ship in the universe. This was an extremely spacious hall. Judging from the various facilities, this place should be the starship's warehouse. However, there were no goods in the warehouse. Instead, it was crowded with people. There were all kinds of people, men and women, old and young. There were also many crystal energy artificial bodies. At a glance, there were thousands of people. Ding Meng slightly sensed that almost all of them were origin ability users. Moreover, these people had one thing in common, which was that they were all disabled. Almost none of them had a complete set of limbs. If they were not missing a hand, then they were broken legs. Some of them did not even have 4 limbs and had to rely on others to carry them. Xiao AI said, "It's a bit strange. Although these people are disabled, I found that their physical fitness is especially good. Ding Ming also saw that although these disabled people had no complete set of limbs, their eyes were bright and full of vigor. Their bodies exuded a cold and fierce aura. At this time, the young man kicked Ding Ming to the ground, then clapped his hands and laughed. "Don't be in a hurry to thank me. We are here to save everyone and bring everyone back to life. We will arrive at our destination very soon. Please be patient." After he finished speaking, he led everyone away. After the alloy door closed, these people did not seem to show any expression of excitement or anger. Everyone stayed where they were obediently. Ding Ming and the other two chose a small empty space to sit down. There were not many people in this corner. Next to them was a middle-aged man who had lost his left leg. He was curled up on the ground powerlessly. Next to the middle-aged man stood a blonde girl about 7 or 8 years old. She was probably his daughter. The little girl was considered normal. She had only lost a few fingers on her left hand. At this moment, she was holding a small glass jar in her right hand. She took out sugar pills from the jar and fed them to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man looked at Ding Ming with envy. "Little brother, it seems that you did not come from the arena?" Ding Ming frowned. "Arena?" When he asked this question, the middle-aged man sighed and said, "Little brother, how did you get here?" Ding Ming said, "My spaceship lost its way in space and ran out of energy. Then I ran into them. What are these people doing?" "I see." The middle-aged man sighed. "This spaceship is called the Butcher. Their boss is called the Butcher. This is a group of space pirates. They specialize in selling disabled people to Planet Medi for profit." "Planet Medi?" Ding Ming was curious. The middle-aged man explained, "Planet Medi is a planet that specializes in taking in disabled people like us." Ding Ming was quite familiar with this situation. The refugee camp on Planet Thorn and the Black Gold base on the Dead Silent planet had such a connection. However, the escorts were a group of space pirates. What was going on? Ding Ming decided to wait and see. Although he had left the expedition, strictly speaking, he still had not found a way out. At the very least, he had to find his location first and then find a starship that could perform a space jump. "Betty, let Uncle have a taste of your snow candy," the middle-aged man said to his daughter beside him. The little girl was very well behaved. She timidly handed the jar over. "Uncle, please have some candy." Ding Ming had always been very gentle to children. He smiled. "Thank you, but I'm not hungry. You can keep it for your father. It's not convenient for him to move around." Betty immediately ran behind the middle-aged man and stared at Ding Ming with a pair of watery eyes. Now that he understood the situation, Ding Ming did not stay idle. He immediately used his telekinesis as soon as he sat down. With his current strength, as long as he did not use telekinesis strings, he basically did not need any energy to support it. The telekinesis dots that he had cultivated were now maximized, and he could cast close to 10,000 of them. With the technological level of the Butcher, even if Ding Ming did not move, the starship would not be able to hide any secrets from him. His telekinesis vision quickly presented the situation in the command room. The pirate Butcher was not the real boss. There were still a few leaders standing beside the control panel. One of them, a white-haired old man with a pipe in his mouth, seemed to be the real leader. The Butcher had a fight with someone earlier and used a short-distance space transmission to come here. The closest star system to us is called the Welcome Star System. It's a small star system on the fringes, and it's also a habitable planet. Their destination is Planet Madison of the Welcome Star System. There are 2 sellers they need to contact. One is called Yang Wei, and the other is called Zheng Kong. The star system is named after them. According to the data, the 2 of them are experts in the field of biology and an authority in mechanical engineering. While Xiao AI was organizing the information, Ding Ming was also carefully observing these people. He found that the Butcher was not weak. Based on his rough estimation, he should be a war reverend, and the white-haired old man was probably not any weaker than a war master. No wonder these pirates dared to kidnap people in space. They were probably relying on the origin energy of these 2 people. The Butcher suddenly spoke. "How long will it take to reach Planet Madison?" The young man immediately replied, "At our current speed, it'll take at most a month. The white-haired old man also spoke. What's the number this time? The young man said, a total of 1124 people. Among them, 23 are normal people and 108 artificial bodies. The white-haired old man nodded slightly. From his expression, he seemed to be quite satisfied with this result. The butcher said, whose priority this time? Yang Wei or Zheng Kong? The white-haired old man said, Yang Wei will definitely be the priority. He's always been quite generous. The butcher frowned. But I heard from Old Long and the others that Yang Wei recently lowered the price. The white-haired old man was a little surprised. Oh, what's the reason? The butcher said, Old man Zheng seems to be a little tight on money. He's slowly losing to Yang Wei. The white-haired old man coldly snorted. He's a classic example of being stubborn. Instead of earning money, he insists on going against the higher-ups. In the end, he'll only get poorer and poorer. The butcher said, I have an idea. The white-haired old man said, What idea? The butcher rolled his eyes. Old man Zheng looks like he's almost out of money. Why don't we just go to the surface and let them compete? One had money, while the other was almost out of money. To let the two compete, to put it bluntly, it was to squeeze the penniless one dry. Xiao AI sighed. This group of pirates is really evil. The white-haired old man smiled. That's a good idea. Ding Ming thought to himself that this wasn't the first time these people had dealt with the two sellers on Planet Wisconsin. Those two were also a little strange. Of all things to buy, they had to buy. Of all things, they had to buy people, and people with disabilities at that. This was the first time he had seen such human traffickers. Chapter 385. Planet Madison, an extremely remote planet on the fringes. Little Love had read the information in the butcher's database, and it showed that there was no country in this star sector. There were thousands of sects, large and small, and these sects had formed alliances with each other. The largest alliance was called the Divine War Alliance, located in the Divine War Star sector. It was far away from the welcome system, so Planet Madison was even further away. Since there was no country, it was not hard to imagine that the technological level of this star sector was not very advanced. At least, it was not as advanced as the Holy Grail Federation. Therefore, in order to compete for resources, many people were injured and could not get effective treatment, so they became disabled. In the Holy Grail Federation, no matter how disabled you were, as long as you did not die, the powerful medical equipment could still restore you to your original state. However, it was not possible here. It was not that the medical standards were not high, but that the medical resources were limited. The gap between the alliances was huge. For an ordinary person like the middle-aged man who was disabled, the best place to go was Planet Madison. However, the welcome system was too far away from the mainstream system. In the beginning, there were a few charity alliances that were willing to transport the injured, but the long distance made the cost of flying too high, and Planet Madison was slowly forgotten. However, at this time, the pirates jumped out and said that if the injured were willing to go as long as they paid a certain fee, they could take the pirate ship. Professor Zheng Kong from Planet Madison also said that if the pirates were to transport the wounded over, he could pay a certain amount of money and resources as a reward. For pirates like the Butcher, this was a classic example of eating up the plaintiff and eating up the defendant. The most important point was that the pirate ship usually did not make a loss on this trip. Instead, they made a profit. This information was naturally given to Ding Ming by the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was called Lu Cheng, and he belonged to a small sect. After he was injured in the arena, he was not qualified to use medical resources. After a long time, his left leg could not be treated, and in the end, he was disabled. He had no choice but to board the Butcher. Ding Ming squatted on the ship for a while, and the Butcher finally arrived at its destination. The young man barged into the warehouse and shouted, get up, all of you, we're here." The crowd immediately became restless. When the alloy door opened, everyone spontaneously lined up and went to the connecting cabin to get off the ship. "Wait, you stay," the young man suddenly called out to Ding Ming. Ding Ming frowned and asked, "What is it?" The young man hooked his finger and said, "You can't leave yet. Come with me." There was a small collection room on the south side of the warehouse. The young man pushed Ding Meng into the room before closing the door behind him. Ding Meng asked curiously, "Why don't you let me get off the boat?" The young man grinned and said, "Someone with arms and legs like you can't get off the boat." Ding Meng asked why. The young man pulled out a shiny military knife from the outside of his thigh and flipped it skillfully between his fingers. "If you continue like this, how are we going to make money?" Ding Meng was a little surprised. "Oh, can't you make money after I get off the ship?" The military knife in the young man's hand spun quickly. He looked proud. "Of course. It's fine for a disabled person to go down, but not for a normal person." Ding Meng said, "So you're saying that if I lose 1 or 2 parts, I'll be able to bring you profits?" The young man suddenly gripped the military knife. "Correct." Ding Meng pondered and said, "I'm a little curious. Why are there only disabled people down there and not normal people?" The young man mocked him mercilessly. "Silly boy, you might not know this, but old man Zheng has a weird hobby. He likes to install artificial limbs for disabled people. But the old man's skills are really good. The artificial limbs that he installs are almost like real people." Ding Meng asked, "Why does he do that?" The young man chuckled. "The old man used to be a mechanic and doctor for the Red Sun Alliance. That stupid alliance is a charity organization. He likes to do stupid things. How great does he think he is?" Ding Meng pondered and said, "Doing charity is not a stupid thing." The young man chuckled and said, "He's not stupid, but you're going to be stupid soon." Ding Meng sighed. "It looks like you're going to cut off one of my legs or one of my arms." The young man looked at him from head to toe with a mocking gaze. "With your body, I'm afraid you'll pass out from the pain if I just cut off one of your fingers. But you're lucky that you met me." Ding Meng said, "What's different about you?" The young man chuckled even more happily. "Don't worry, this cut of mine will be so fast that you won't feel any pain at all." Ding Meng said, "So you're saying that this is the painless knife technique?" The young man laughed. Interesting. This is the first time I've heard of the painless knife technique. You're really an interesting boy. To be honest, I think it would be a pity to cripple you." Ding Meng also laughed. "To be honest, do you think you can cripple me?" The young man suddenly stopped smiling. His body flashed, and a cold light rose up in the collection room. However, the next moment, the scene of Ding Meng rolling on the ground in pain while holding his finger did not happen. His knife stopped in the air less than half a meter away from Ding Meng. It was as if the military knife had stabbed into an invisible membrane. It was so soft that it could not pierce through. "You!" The young man raised his head in surprise. Ding Meng looked at him with a smile. "It really is painless. After all, it can't cut anyone." As expected of the painless knife technique, the young man was furious. He took 2 steps back and used his power of origin to stab at Ding Meng again. Ding Meng did not even move. The military knife almost stopped at the tip of his nose. Xiao AI said, "There are no spies in this room. I think we should just get rid of him." Ding Meng smiled and said, "That's a good knife technique." Only then did the young man bounce back like a rabbit that had been shot by an arrow. "I misjudged you. You're actually an expert." As he retreated, he reached for the communication box on his belt. Unexpectedly, as soon as he pulled the box off, it exploded into a puff of black smoke with a bang. He was so hot that he shook his wrist violently. "You!" The young man was shocked. He raised his hand to touch the communication device on his ear again. There was another soft bang, and the communication device also turned into a puff of black smoke. This time, it was so hot that his ear was numb. He could only shake his head repeatedly. Ding Meng smiled and said, "Go on. I really want to experience your painless knife technique." Unexpectedly, the young man shouted, "There's a ghost. This is a F*King witchcraft. This is witchcraft. Who the hell are you?" Ding Meng sighed helplessly. This guy didn't even know what telekinesis was, so he thought it was some sort of witchcraft. Ding Meng casually waved his hand, and the military knife miraculously flew from the young man's hand to Ding Meng's. When Ding Meng turned his wrist again, the young man's eyes widened. The military knife was like a nimble snake as it flew up and down between Ding Meng's fingers. It was so fast and had so many variations that it was dazzling. It was obvious at a glance that he was an expert with a knife. At the very least, he was several times better than the young man. The young man was shocked. You're also a psionicist? Psionicist? Ding Meng thought to himself. Did these guys refer to origin ability users as psionicists? Xiao AI explained, yes. I checked their database before and found that this is how they categorize origin ability users. This place is divided into psionicists, soul soldiers, soul knights, martial artists, soul generals, and soul sages. There are a total of 6 levels, but each level is further divided into several smaller levels. It's still very different from the Holy Grail Federation. The young man saw that Ding Ming's expression was somewhat hesitant. Like lightning, he chopped down with his hand. The edge of his palm was covered in a layer of sharp, light blue ice. According to the Federation standards, this young man was a beginner ice element warrior with some background. However, if he thought that he could defeat Ding Meng with this kind of method, he was undoubtedly dreaming. With a ding-ling sound, the hand chopped down halfway, as if it had hit an iron wall. Ding Meng was definitely fine. On the other hand, the young man clutched his wrist in pain and bent over because his ice blade had shattered. Ding Meng was still smiling. I understand now. Your painless knife technique doesn't hurt others, but it hurts yourself. Wonderful. The young man raised his head in shock. His eyes were filled with unconcealable fear. Who exactly are you? Ding Meng smiled and said, let me ask you, what level of psionicist are you? The young man nervously said, I'm a soul soldier level 12. Ding Meng was a little confused. He definitely did not know how to judge a small level like this. Thus, he changed his question and asked, what's the highest level of soul soldier level? The young man was even more confused. The guy in front of him clearly had unfathomable and terrifying strength, but he just had to ask such low-level questions. However, he could only honestly answer, the highest is Soul Soldier level 100. After Soul Soldier level 100 is Soul Knight. All right. Ding Meng was also a little helpless. In this situation, it was impossible for him to ask in detail. Since you're honest, I won't make things difficult for you. Have a taste of my ghost, demon pupil technique. After he finished speaking, his eyes slightly widened and a small amount of telekinetic energy pierced the young man's brain. The young man screamed and immediately fainted. Ding Meng had actually used an infectious telekinetic energy to forcibly inject the young man with the images of the monsters that the water droplets had frightened him with. Once the young man woke up, he would lose his mind and live in fear all day long. Xiao AI said, why don't you get rid of him once and for all? Ding Meng said, he's still useful. As long as he doesn't die, the others on the ship will discover him sooner or later. After discovering him, they will definitely investigate the reason. Try to stall these pirates as much as possible. We can't let the butcher escape after the transaction. This starship is still useful to me. Xiao AI sighed. All right. After all, we don't know the exact situation on the surface. After dealing with the young man, Ding Meng did not hesitate to strip off the young man's uniform and put it on himself. Then, he lightly wiped his face with 1,000 shadows slash. Ding Meng's appearance immediately began to change. In a few seconds, he had become a pirated version of a young man. There was no other reason for doing this. He had to retrieve his rainbow backpack. He could give up the supplies, weapons, and auxiliary tools inside, but he could not allow the 2 damaged prototype to fall into the hands of the pirates. As for which cabin the backpack was in, had the items inside been touched by anyone? These days, Ding Meng's telekinetic vision was very clear. If he wanted to retrieve it now, it would be as easy as pie. Chapter 386. Blue Sky, White Clouds, and Grassland. The butcher was parked on this boundless grassland. A simple road meandered from afar, and a transport vehicle and a transport ship were parked below the starship. The white-haired old man, the butcher, and a group of people were already in the open space, and all the disabled people were lined up. There was an old man standing in front of the vehicle and the ship. It was obvious that they were the buyers, Yang Wei and Zheng Kong. Zheng Kong was not tall, and he wore a pair of black-rimmed glasses. He looked a little dull, while Yang Wei looked much younger and was quite arrogant. Behind Yang Wei stood a group of muscular men with all four limbs. They all looked disgusting and were probably his assistants. Behind Zheng Kong stood 4 or 5 humanoid artificial bodies. The most surprising thing was that these artificial bodies were not made of pure alloy. According to Xiao AI's observation, these artificial bodies were made of a mixture of alloy and bone materials. These artificial bodies were not attached to spiritual bodies. Ding Ming noticed that the head of one of the artificial bodies was a real person's head, not a metal head. This person was a good-looking woman, and her movements were almost like a real person's. No wonder the young people praised Zheng Kang's craftsmanship. This level of craftsmanship was even better than the Holy Grail Federation. However, the line was divided into 2 lines. The purpose was simple. Those who were willing to follow Yang Wei would go to the transport ship, and those who were willing to follow Zheng Kong would gather at the transport vehicle. Everyone was not stupid, and they knew who to choose when they saw the transport vehicle. Besides, Yang Wei's leather shoes were shiny, while Zheng Kang's clothes were coarse, and even his shoes seemed to be made of cloth. It was really hard to believe that this person was an authoritative mechanical expert. Brother Ding, let's go to Professor Zheng. Lu Chen walked up. Why not go to the other side? Ding Ming found that not many people went to the transport vehicle, but Zheng Kong was surrounded by a group of artificial bodies. Lu Cheng sighed and said, I have a friend who once reminded me that if I were to go to Madison one day, it would be best to follow Professor Zheng Kong. Professor Yang is a bit harsh. Of course, Ding Ming did not believe him completely because he noticed that the butcher was negotiating with Yang Wei. That's right. These people were rescued on the way here. Yang Wei looked a little impatient. It's fine if these pieces of trash aren't psionicis, but look at their sallow and emaciated faces. What can they do? Butcher smiled and said, Well, how about half price? Yang Wei snorted coldly and didn't agree. Zheng Kong suddenly said in a deep voice, If you have all 4 limbs, you can come to me and follow that surnamed Yang. If you fail in his experiments, you will be disposed of like garbage. If you come to me, I can guarantee that you will recover your limbs and be able to walk like a normal person. I will only say this once. You can choose who you want to follow. As soon as he said this, the crowd immediately looked at Yang Wei. Yang Wei was flustered and exasperated. Zheng, don't try to mislead people with your lies. Everyone, listen up. If you come with me, not only will I guarantee that your limbs will be restored, but they will be real human limbs. You will not be like that surnamed Zheng who gave you artificial limbs. Once you recover, you will enjoy a quality life and not live like garbage on the ground. As soon as he shouted, the crowd rushed over in a hubbub. Zheng Kong did not refute this and just turned around silently. Let's go. The female assistant immediately called for everyone to get on the bus. Yang Wei's transport ship rose into the air and soon disappeared into the horizon. To be honest, this kind of transport vehicle was really too old. It was just like the ancient trucks used by humans. It still used an engine to drive the wheels, and the compartments were all open air. Dozens of people inside would shake along with the vehicle when it was turned over. It was really not a comfortable feeling. The female assistant was already introducing herself. Hello, everyone. My name is Mei Ling. I am Professor Zheng's personal assistant. On behalf of Professor Zheng, I welcome everyone to Health Town. No matter why you are here or what you have done before, Professor Zheng will restore your limbs. Someone in the carriage had already asked, I heard that Professor Zheng has been here for more than 20 years and has never charged anyone for installing artificial bodies. Is that true? Mei Ling smiled and explained, It's true. Professor Zheng used to be a specialist in the Red Sun Alliance. He couldn't bear to see the disabled go without treatment, so he came here to treat everyone for free. Everyone should know about the Red Sun Alliance. Although it is no longer around, it is still a charity organization. Then how long will it take for my artificial body to be installed? Someone asked again. The person who asked was a poor guy who had all 4 limbs amputated. Don't worry, it will be quick, Mei Ling explained patiently. When I was first sent here, I was already on the verge of death. My heart had already been destroyed, but the professor only took a month to modify this artificial body for me. Now, I'm a completely normal person. Everyone nodded. If Professor Zeng could save a person who only had a head left, then it was only a matter of time for someone who had lost all 4 limbs to return to normal. Everyone was asking questions at once, but Ding Ming remained silent. He and Xiao AI had the same idea. Professor Zeng would not install artificial bodies for people for no reason. There was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. As the transport vehicle went deeper into the grassland, Ding Ming finally saw a huge metal disc in the air. It stood there like a lighthouse. He now knew that above it was Yang Wei's territory. Below the lighthouse was a very old town. As a whole, it looked like the underground city of Blue Pole Star City. The lighthouse district above and the shanty town below combined to form this healthy town. The people on the streets of the residential area on the surface were all artificial bodies. Although they looked like real people, Ding Ming found that many of them only had one head. The rest of their bodies were made of mixed materials. The residential area was full of houses made of building blocks. The houses were built in a very orderly manner. They were stacked together in a square. The tallest house was only 7 stories high. This place looked very shabby. Mei Ling also seemed to have noticed Ding Ming. After all, Ding Ming was one of the few normal people here. My friend, welcome to Healthy Town. Mei Ling took the initiative to ask, You look very healthy. I don't think you need an artificial body, right? Ding Ming smiled. I mainly want to ask Professor some questions about machinery. Mei Ling revealed a sweet smile. Of course, Professor is very happy to help everyone solve their problems. After the transport vehicle entered the town, Mei Ling arranged for the other assistants to arrange rooms for the dozens of disabled people. Then, she led everyone to a 3-story shack. This was Professor Zheng Kang's research institute. This research institute was definitely not comparable to Yao Manru's research institute. However, when Ding Ming entered, he was attracted by the furnishings in the hall. In addition to the necessary mechanical workbench, there were all kinds of material samples placed on the shelves. Not to mention the alloy materials, most of them were bone materials. Many of them should be original samples. They looked a bit like animal remains. The work of installing artificial bodies was naturally done by Mei Ling and the other assistants. Professor Zheng Kang was fiddling with the workbench alone. He seemed to be using all kinds of cutting tools to polish the strange-looking bones. Young man, why did you come to my place instead of the residential area? Zheng Kang had obviously noticed Ding Ming. Ding Ming said modestly, Professor Zheng, I would like to ask you some questions. What questions? Zheng Kang's expression didn't seem to care. It seemed that there were many people who sought his advice, but there weren't many things that could truly pique his interest. I have a set of armor here. It was damaged in an accident. I would like to ask Professor Zheng to take a look at it. Ding Ming took out the metal box containing the prototype battle armor. In truth, this was Xiao AI's impromptu idea. The people of Healthtown all installed this unique bone alloy hybrid artificial body. This was a major category of biotechnology. If Zheng Kang took a look, he might be able to fix it. Currently, Ding Ming had 2 prototype battle armor. The first one was his, but it had been severely damaged in the battle with Quan Jinwei and Chu Mingliang. It was practically unusable. The other one was given to him by Aaron. It was slightly damaged in the battle with Water Droplet, so the one he took out now was the first one. The first prototype battle armor was just a pile of parts on a workbench. The workbench was relatively primitive. It didn't have a screen, just a solid mechanical screen. Zheng Kang casually flipped through it a few times. At first, he didn't think much of it, but as he flipped through it, his expression became thoughtful. Ding Ming hurriedly asked, How is it? Zheng Kang finally raised his head. Where did you get this armor? Ding Ming said, A friend of mine gave it to me. Zheng Kang asked, Where's your friend? Ding Ming could only lie. He's no longer with us. Zheng Kong nodded. Only then did he put down the work in his hands and begin assembling the prototype battle armor. Without a blueprint, there was no way he could assemble it manually. So, Zheng Kong pressed buttons on the mechanical screen as he assembled it. Although Ding Meng didn't understand the design, he had seen it before. It was the concept map and concept data that Yao Manru had shown him back then. He had firmly memorized all of this information. Zheng Kong spent 5 or 6 hours assembling the prototype battle armor. There was no way he could assemble the complete form of the prototype battle armor, but an extremely perfect blueprint had already appeared on the screen. When the blueprint was complete, Zheng Kong put down his tools and said calmly, "Your friend isn't bad." Ding Meng said, "Oh." Zheng Kong said, "This thing isn't just a simple armor. Your friend's thinking is very unique. He fused metal, fiber, leather, and other materials together to create an excellent battle armor. All he needs to do is charge it up." Ding Meng nodded. This Professor Zheng Kong really did have some skill. He knew how to see through these things. Unexpectedly, Zheng Kang's tone changed again. "It's just a pity that your friend is lacking in materials. That's why this battle armor is still in the category of metal. Judging from the degree of damage, the chances of restoring it are very small. If you really want to restore it, I suggest you use other materials to replace the fiber." Ding Meng immediately asked, "What materials do you need?" Chapter 387. Zheng Kong did not answer Ding Meng immediately. Instead, he pointed at a yellowish rock on the workbench. Ding Meng frowned and asked, "What's this?" Zheng Kong said, "You should be a psionicist as well, right? Give it a try and see if you can break it." As he spoke, he handed over a carving knife. The knife was not some kind of godly weapon, but it looked sharp enough. Ding Meng took the knife and chopped at the stone. The stone was like a dough, giving people a feeling of softness. Then it produced a fierce rebounding force and immediately bounced the knife back. Ding Meng was surprised. "I couldn't pierce through it." Zheng Kong said calmly, "I did pierce through it, but it's very elastic. It also has the characteristics of being resistant to attacks and has the ability to repair itself. This is a special kind of bone material. Of course, you can also think of it as a piece of bone." Ding Meng asked curiously, "Where can I find a bone like this?" Mei Ling walked over. "You'll have to go to the outskirts of Health Town to look for it. If you're psionicist and interested, Hongda can take you there." Ding Meng asked, "Who's Hongda?" "It's me." A loud and rough voice came from the entrance. Ding Meng turned his head and saw a burly man walking in with an imposing aura. This person's prosthetic body was more complete than most. Only his left arm was replaced by a prosthetic. The prosthetic was made from the same bone as the one on the workbench and was shaped into a human arm. Ding Meng sensed that this person named Hongda was quite strong. He should be an advanced warrior. Following Hong, there were more than a dozen men and women. Each of them had a fierce and valiant aura. They should be origin ability users as well, just not as strong as Hongda. These people were carrying sacks made of animal skins on their shoulders. As soon as they came in, they opened the sacks and dumped them on the ground. This time, Ding Meng and Xiao AI had an eye-opening experience. These sacks were all animal skins, bones, and some pieces of bloody flesh. It seemed that they were parts of animals. Xiao AI said, "This should be the bone that Zheng Kong was talking about. I've analyzed that these are all raw materials. He needs to extract them to make that kind of bone." The things that were poured out from the sacks quickly piled up into a small hill on the ground. The amount was not small. Hongda's voice was like thunder. "Professor, are these materials enough?" Sing Kong glanced at them indifferently. "Go and rest. Come and get the new bone armor from me tomorrow morning. Mei pack up these things." "Yes, Professor." Mei Ling agreed readily. Only then did Hongda look at Ding Meng. "Newcomer?" Ding Meng nodded. Hongda asked, "What's your name?" Ding Meng said, "Fusion is real." Hongda said, "I didn't expect you to be a complete person. How about it? Are you interested in learning from each other?" Ding Meng sighed. "I'm just average." "Just average, right? You'll know once you try." As Hongda spoke, he stomped on the ground. A bone about half a meter long suddenly shot up. Hongda flicked it lightly with his left hand. The bone spun and hit Ding Meng. It was still the same as before, with Ding Meng's current strength. As long as the other party made a move, he would immediately know the other party's strength. However, Ding Meng did not want to reveal too much of his strength right now. Thus, he allowed Bonehead to hit his shoulder with a pung sound, and then he bent over backwards with a pained expression. Honda could not help but sneer. You're a person with arms and legs, but you're not even as good as me, a cripple with prosthetics. Ding Meng slowly straightened up. I said I'm just average. Honda said, you're not average either. At least you're a psionicist. It's a pity that your combat ability is a little weak. Myling quickly explained, this brother Feng also wants to go hunting. Honda, if you guys are free next time, bring him along. Honda said disdainfully, he'd better stay in town. If he goes out into the wild, I'm worried that he'll be eaten by monsters. Ding Meng was curious. There are monsters out there? When he got off the ship, he carefully sensed that there were only grasslands around him. Where would the monsters come from? However, Hong could not be bothered with Ding Meng. A newcomer is a newcomer. You haven't suffered yet. Let's go, everyone. Go back and have a good rest. We'll continue in a few days. After the group left, Ding Meng asked, Professor Zeng, can the materials on the ground be used to repair my armor? Zeng Kong said unhurriedly, it's far from enough. It needs at least 50 times more. Besides, these things belong to others, not you. Ding Meng frowned. Didn't Myling say that you'd install artificial bodies for everyone for free? Zeng Kong said, for anyone who comes to Madison for the first time, I'll install them for free. But only for the first time. Since you're not disabled, I have no obligation to install them for you. Besides, what you want to repair is a combat suit, so you'll have to find the materials yourself. All right. Ding Meng was a little helpless. He was new to this place, so he had to abide by the rules of this place. He was about to leave when someone else came. It was none other than the pirates from the Butcher. There were 4 of them in total. The leader was the Butcher, and the other 2 were supporting a young man with a dazed face. The young man was in this state because of Ding Meng's telekinesis. He did not expect the other party to discover it so quickly. The Butcher was very polite to Zeng Kong. He said with a smile, Professor Zeng, please be magnanimous and help us. Although he was polite, Zeng Kong seemed to have a lukewarm attitude towards everyone. I won't help you with anything. It's a fair trade. The Butcher laughed. Professor, you've already received someone today. We haven't settled our accounts yet. This little brother of mine seems to be sick, and it's a little sudden. Please take a look at him. As for the price, you can deduct it from the settlement. Zeng Kong said, how much? The Butcher laughed. Based on the head, of course. Your brother is a normal person with all 4 limbs. But what you've sent is either a disabled person or an artificial body. You're going to deduct 1 to 1? Zeng Kang's tone was a little cold. The Butcher suddenly glanced at Ding Meng. But this brother is also a normal person. There was a hint of coldness in his gaze. Ding Meng was calm. It would be strange if the Butcher did not suspect him. The young man must have dared to attack him because of the Butcher and the others. In the end, Ding Meng was fine, but the young man suddenly became a retard. If it had nothing to do with Ding Meng, it would be a lie. Zeng Kong said coldly, although this little brother Feng is normal, he's not a patient. The Butcher was a little helpless. All right, we'll deduct it from the settlement according to the 1 to 10 ratio. Please be magnanimous, Professor. Zeng Kong glanced at the young man and said, he's hopeless. Take him away. His pupils have become like that. Even the best doctor can't cure him. The Butcher's expression changed. But you haven't even looked at him. How do you know he's hopeless? Zeng Kong was a little impatient. If I say he's hopeless, then he's hopeless. Am I the doctor, or are you the doctor? If you're not convinced, you can go find Yang. If his conclusion is different from mine, I'll eat this pile of things on the ground in front of you. On the ground was a pile of mangled bones mixed with internal organs. It was disgusting to look at. Butcher had dealt with Zeng Kong many times and seemed to know Zeng Kang's temper, so he could only turn to Ding Meng. I wonder if little brother Feng is a doctor? It was a good question. Ding Meng could not help but sigh. If only I was. I promise I won't treat him. Unfortunately, I'm not. The butcher also understood that the young man punched and kicked Ding Ming on the expedition. He must be upset. However, if this was really done by Ding Ming would not just stand there obediently. Forget it. Let's go to the lighthouse and find Professor Yang. The butcher also called 2 of his men to leave. The butcher and the others were piloting a small transport ship. Seeing the ship slowly ascend to the lighthouse, Ding Ming could not help but say, "I don't think there are any ships here." Zheng Kong said, "Yang has one. I don't have one here." Ding Ming asked why. Zheng Kong said, "He bought them all." Ding Ming asked, "Then what does this place do for a living?" Zheng Kang's tone turned cold again. "If I were you, instead of asking why, I'd rather think of a way to get the materials." This was an order for him to leave. Ding Ming was helpless. Professor Zheng's temper was indeed a little strange. After leaving the research institute, Ding Ming went straight to the residential area. The newcomers were all allocated a simple shed. Fumamasa and Shuiyu Mountain's rooms were next to Ding Ming's. Looking from the 3rd floor, there was an open space in the distance where many people were sparring with each other. Xiao AI's previous analysis was completely correct. The physical fitness of the people here was especially good. It could be seen that these origin ability users were not afraid of ordinary weapons. When a blade pierced their arm, it was like stabbing a steel plate. If this was according to the Holy Grail Federation standards, one would be at least an intermediate war elder to be able to reach this level. However, the aura of these people was clearly only at the level of beginner or intermediate warriors. Fumamasa explained the gravity of the habitable planets in this star field is different. That's why these people's resistance is so strong. Shuiyu Mountain said, "I'm curious about something. While I walked around just now, I didn't find anything like a sensor cabin. How do these origin ability users cultivate?" "Good question." Fumamasa answered. "I was just about to ask you. Many of them only have their heads left. How can they be equipped with bone prosthetics and still be fine? Where do they get the energy?" Shuiyu Mountain bitterly smiled. "This kind of survival ability can only be found in our devouring world. However, these are humans. They're definitely not our kind." Ding Ming couldn't answer their questions. Although Health Town was backward, it still gave him a strange feeling. However, the most important thing right now wasn't to get the materials, but to find a way to keep the pirates' starship. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.